Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to day 29 of the HerStory Online Summit. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And I have my co-host, Ms. Jerry. Please introduce yourself. Let
Uh,
everybody know where you are.
I'm Jerry O'Lyon. I'm residing right now in Utah, in Lehi, Utah, and I'm the author of Grandma's Buttons. That's a Alzheimer's story. I wrote this book. It took me quite a while to write the book. It was an ongoing project, but I published in 2020, January 2020, and it's an international bestseller, #1 international bestseller. And it's a story of how to take care of someone with Alzheimer's and still be happy. And so I'm very happy with the results of that. Someday hope to make it into a movie.
Fantastic. Good to have you here, Jerry.
Thank you.
So we'll start off our day, first of all, with the usual acknowledgement. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today. Thank you for hosting me in your beautiful country. And we are going to start off our day with a review of the video we played yesterday. So, Jerry, you were here when we were playing the video for Lena. I met the director of this film. His name is Eston Wallen through LinkedIn because he had done a TED talk on Ubuntu. That was the connection. He actually reminded me yesterday. And because I've done several TED talks on Ubuntu, we had something in common. We started talking, and he told me about this documentary he had been working on and how he had just won the Norwegian Oscar for Best Documentary last year. Unfortunately, the beautiful young woman didn't make it. She had a very nasty fall. She ended up dying from the injury of that fall. So before we start talking about this amazing story, I'll just play a brief trailer.
Jira software is the #1 agile tool recommended by teams. It's used by project managers, developers, scrum masters, and really any team who builds and supports software.
There's technology going wrong. For those of you who didn't get to watch this documentary, I'll just play the short 4-minute trailer, and then Jerry and I will be discussing our views, our thoughts of this amazing story. Her name was Lena, and this is the trailer to the movie. And you can find this online. The documentary is called Self-Portrait.
Wake me up, my darling, when
Lord has descended on us, all glories that you carry with you, they are lost in where love is shame is love of a prison. Away from the dawn, snow-covered house, softly lay your hands on wake me up, my darling, when the Lord has descended on us. All the glories that you carried with you, they are lost in grace.
Very moving story. She died in 2019. She was involved in a car accident with her mom, and the driver of the other vehicle slammed into her side of the car. She was hospitalized, and she never recovered from those injuries.
And she never wanted to be hospitalized again.
No, and the injuries were not major, but I think because she was so frail, her body just could not take the impact. So a lot of learning for me, listening to the story and having the privilege of interviewing the director of the film. He got to spend a lot of time with her and really got to know her. Anorexia is a disease that plagues a lot of young women. From the age of 10, she decided she didn't want to grow up. She said she wanted to stop time. She started experiencing anxiety and stress, and there was nothing major that happened in her life to cause the trauma, but she never ate again. She didn't eat. And what blows me away is the parents having to live with the child from 10 to 33 with this condition, and then eventually to see her die in this way is pretty sad too. So she decided to capture her story to educate young girls, to talk about things that they feel being stressful in their lives, to share her pain with the world. And she said the way she looked at her life was, it's like somebody who's told they have cancer. And it's what you do with your life from that point on. For her, it was anorexia. And she didn't want to be defined by the disease. That's why she became a photographer. That's why she captured her own story in such a sad but beautiful way, you know?
It
Her,
was
her,
very interesting to see her. Um, she had, I feel like, and I don't know this for sure, but it seemed to me like she had a good sense of self. It wasn't depression that caused this.
yeah,
It was a choice that she made, um, because she said several times she wanted to be a little girl.
yes.
She never grew breasts. She never developed. She never went through puberty
Mm-hmm.
because of the illness. And you would think that it wasn't because she thought she was fat. It had nothing to do with that.
No,
It had nothing to do with. That's what was intriguing to me, or um, made it not as tragic, because she didn't just sit down and let herself die. She did something, and her
mm,
photography. I mean, you got to see the whole film because it's so worth seeing.
mm,
Because she didn't sit around. I I
no,
I just saw that she always was out and about. She was always finding people to photograph, people who probably never would have been photographed before,
yeah.
especially her photographs of old people just were beautiful. Um, so well done. And
And when I asked what the connection to Greece was, um, Eston said the parents used to take her to Greece a lot on holiday. And that little village was the only place where she felt normal. She said people didn't look at her, they didn't stare.
she wasn't
They
from Greece.
no, no,
Oh,
she's Norwegian.
oh, I thought she was
She's
from Greece.
Norwegian. No, she's Norwegian. The director of the film is Norwegian, but the parents took her on holiday there once, and she just fell in love with that particular little village. It had all these old ruins from the war,
Mhm.
and some of the beautiful pictures she took were in a leprosy hospital that had been abandoned.
Oh,
Those are the pictures where she's lying on the hospital beds.
yeah.
Yeah, so she would find these old buildings, and that's where she created her art. And I almost feel as if she saw the world in black and white
Mhm.
because she knew the play of light and shadow. I was just blown away with the quality of her photography. She also got involved with the refugees from Syria who came to Greece with the boats. So some of her images of the little children, those were refugee children who had come in with the boats from Syria.
Oh.
So she knew the plight of refugee people. She captured their stories as well. Absolutely incredible human being.
Unfortunately, I had to leave before the very end yesterday, and I never wanted to skip what I was committed to more in my life than yesterday. I wanted to stay till the very end, and so I'm glad we're talking about it today because everyone I saw yesterday, every person I came across yesterday, I told them about her. You know,
Yeah.
and uh, because it just is very impactful. Just she's not a little girl. She's not a woman who died of anorexia.
No.
She lived with it. It
She
was.
lived with it and she lived a full life and did what she could with the conditions she had.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it gave me a better understanding of, mental health issues that us, the normal people, can't quite relate to. I remember when my daughter was in high school, she went to the most expensive private school in Wellington in New Zealand. And a lot of the young girls in that school were anorexic or had bulimia. And I started working with these kids. I wanted to understand why a child in a first world country would starve themselves to death, because that's literally what she did. She said it was a slow suicide, is how she put it in the documentary. And when I started working with these young girls, a lot of them came from very affluent families. They had everything material. But what was lacking in most of their lives was the spiritual aspect, family, parents were entrepreneurs, very, very busy parents building their businesses and their companies. And they had a nanny who brought them up. The only time they got attention from their parents is when they slashed their wrists and they were rushed to hospital. So it was almost like attention-seeking behavior. Then I talked to one young girl who really suffered from depression, and she said the only time she could feel any emotion was when she felt the pain of cutting herself and the blood rushing out of her veins.
Oh my goodness.
So mental health is
really
complex.
Yeah.
It is very, very complex. It's not an easy thing to understand. So we need to learn. We need to accept what this all means. It's not an easy place to be.
Yeah. I just have never heard of someone who was suffered with anorexia that ended up doing something with that their life didn't revolve around the anorexia. And I the whole time I was watching that, I was like, oh my goodness, I just am amazed. Did you record the interview with him yesterday?
Yes. So the interview's there at the end of yesterday's last video. So you can go back, Jerry, and watch it. I did notice that we did get a copyright infringement because of the music in the video. So you'll find that in places they've muted the music. The video is there, the words are there, but they muted the music because of copyright issues. But that was the only thing. So thank you, Espen, for connecting or reconnecting with me and allowing us to share your work. Congratulations on winning your Oscar.
Amazing.
Just incredible what you managed to capture there. And in talking to him, we will be working together. I've just been invited to work with teenage girls in high schools here in Australia around building self-confidence and speaking confidently. And I said to him, this might be a great thing for us to combine forces and talk about having a positive body image, because a lot of young girls are looking at Instagram, they're seeing these Instagram models and celebrities and influencers, Photoshop pictures, and a lot of young kids are getting into these kind of problems with lacking the self-confidence with their body image. So yeah, we're going to be working together on that project. It'll help him bring his story to New Zealand and Australia and help a lot of young girls, I feel, with all of this as well.
Oh, yes.
So very, very exciting. The beautiful Karen has just emailed us a second version of her presentation. So we will watch one video on mental health now. I'll just send Karen the link to our broadcast today. So hopefully she'll be able to help to join us. But we'll start with mental health. This is a doctor who I recorded when I was working on a series of interviews around women's mental health. So we'll watch the video first, Jerry, then we'll take it apart. And hopefully by the time we've done that, the beautiful Karen will be here to join us.
Sounds good.
So here we go. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the HerStory TV and the HerStory podcast. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another sister from another mother. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Please tell everybody your full name, where you're
Uh,
based.
I am Tanya Destang Bobran, a family physician specializing in functional and integrative medicine, and I'm based in the beautiful Caribbean island of St. Lucia.
Wow. I've been talking to women from all over the world. This is the first time I've had a guest from St. Lucia. And like I said when we were starting, I love the Caribbean. It
Yeah.
feels like home. So, where are we going to begin with your story?
Wherever you want to go.
So, tell us that pivotal point in time when your life changed.
Well, I tell the story that the greatest blessing, I think, in my life was being on the other end of a stethoscope. As a physician, I'm always the one with the stethoscope listening.
Yes.
And there I was. I'm asthmatic, and I was really having a bad attack. And on the other end of that stethoscope, I'm looking up at my colleagues, and I see that look. And that's a look that I know with a little guiltily I felt at the time that I too had given to my patients. That look when you've done everything you can, you've run all the tests, and you've given all the medication, and the person is not responding the way they should. So you think there's something wrong. So I saw that look and I thought to myself, this is how we've been trained to look at disease, not to look at the person beyond the disease.
Yes.
And something shifted that moment. And I said, nobody's looking at me. I'm just an amalgamation of symptoms and signs, and that make up a disease. And I'm being treated based on whatever big pharma has as the latest drug regimen. Right. Nobody's looking beyond the disease and saying, okay, what's going on with her? What else could there be? So I decided there and then that I knew that I could heal myself. And I'm not telling anybody who's sick that they should do that. But I knew then, because I guess I had the medical knowledge, that I had to take ownership of my health. Yes. And that I had to do what felt innately correct. So I then went in search of why. And one of the main things that I got out of this was that the cough I had was a blockage in my throat because I was not speaking my truth.
Okay.
And that was like, whoa, where did that come from?
Yes.
What's this about? And then I went, the doctor in me, the conventional Western medicine doctor in me wanted an answer. Yes. Okay. So I then went looking and I was diagnosed with a particular form of asthma. And that's why, so for me, it made me realize that I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be heard. I wanted to be held in a safe space that moment.
Right.
But we were not taught to do that. We were taught to see the disease and write a prescription and, put medication in. But it's not done in this container where the patient feels truly seen and heard and even held. Yeah. And I once told one of them that what I needed more than the prescriptions and the medication was a prescription for love.
Oh, wow.
I said, I just needed you to see me. I just needed you to hear me. But you were listening to my lungs. You were not listening to me. You were just listening to my lungs. And it changed everything for me. I started looking into other ways of healing. I then did a course in integrative with IIN and did a health coaching course. But the first person whose life was changed by that coaching course was mine.
Oh my God.
And the look, just it all fell into place where I knew that there was more to medicine than just writing prescriptions and seeing disease. It made me look at the person beyond the disease, and it made me look at myself beyond the disease. Yes. I then went on to do an advanced fellowship in functional and anti-aging medicine. And whilst finishing that, literally something fell into my lap, which was a degree program in alternative medicine. I never knew it existed. Okay. And it gave me 2 blissful years of emerging myself into so many different realms of different kinds of medicine, from the ancient, Eastern medicine,
Eastern medicines, yes.
Traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda. They went into naturopathy, and also learning the histories
Behind it.
behind it. It filled me up so much. I then realized that, there was something beyond Western medicine,
Mm-hmm.
but Western medicine saves lives every minute of every day.
Yes.
Every single minute of every day, somebody's life is saved.
It's being saved.
Western. However, Western medicine is not very good at healing. So it's very good at curing. You have something, you have surgery, you take it out, you're cured, but you're not healed. So healing comes from within, and by looking at the person from a deeper place.
Yeah.
And that's where functional and the integrative and alternative and complementary therapies come in, blended with the science and technology that Western medicine gives.
Wow. It sounds to me like you have been on quite a journey, but the breadcrumbs were there, right? The signs were there. You almost feels like you were guided to find each and every one of these solutions.
Yes, indeed.
So you got stronger at seeing the signs. I like to talk about women's intuition.
Oof, yeah.
A lot of times we don't listen to the promptings. We don't listen to those signs, and we don't trust ourselves.
Yeah.
And your intuition is like a muscle. You use it, it gets stronger. And the stronger it gets, the more you use it. How does your intuition talk to you? When do you know this is a sign, this is something I'm supposed to follow?
It's almost like there's a knowing that I just know. I literally just know.
Yes.
There's I can't even explain it.
Explain it, yes.
So as I've gotten older,
yeah,
and as I've started speaking out more and delving into more of the spiritual aspects, and what I actually left my practice 6 years ago to go back to school to study.
Okay.
And that was the biggest moment of my life, to step out of my comfort zone. I had built a successful practice.
Yes.
And there I was saying, I'm going to leave it in somebody else's hands and I'm going to study this. But I knew I can't explain to people. Some people say, you were running away. I said, no, I was running towards my truth. I was running towards something that I had no choice but to do it.
Yes. Yes.
And
it was calling you.
It was calling me. And that was as if everything opened up. And I just have this knowing that things are going to fall into place. And, I was telling you earlier that I opened your email.
Yes.
And usually Fridays I'm frantic all over the place, and I found a pocket of time and I opened this email and I'm like, oh, wow, So my faith and my intuition have been very pivotal in carrying me along this journey. They have these two, I call them pillars, have supported me throughout especially the past 6 years when I stepped off the beaten path.
We have one of my friends in Australia tuning in on Facebook, Nina Angelo. It's good to see you watching us today. Nina said that this is really interesting. I wish there were more practitioners like you, Dr. Tanya. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
So, you doctors are trained to prescribe medication. They end up being legalized drug dealers, if you don't mind my saying, because the pharmaceutical world is pushing for this.
Yes.
So there is a need for medication. How do you balance that out with using natural methodologies to heal and the pharmaceutical medication?
Well, I think the first thing is to look beyond the disease. So, for instance, diabetes presents with a certain set of signs and symptoms, and and your blood sugar is high.
Yes.
But why did this particular person have their blood sugar go so high?
Yes.
Is it their lifestyle? Is it genetic? Is there something else? Is the body trying to tell me something?
Yes.
So I go in depth and I look at everything and I have a conversation with them. So this is not, okay, you have this and I'm ticking you off, and because you've met the 5 ticks and you meet that criteria, then you have diabetes. And because I know you have diabetes based on whatever the latest drug regimen is, I prescribe it. No, what it is I go deeper.
Right.
Why did you get? So if it's something you're eating, what's the point of prescribing medication and you're going to continue eating and living that way? If it is a stressful situation in your life, then it's going to continue raising your cortisol levels, and it's going to continue affecting your blood sugar. And all that's going to happen is in 3 months, when we repeat your labs, your blood sugar will be higher, and I'll have to increase your medication. So the joy of what I do for me is that I get to the root cause. I find out what's happening to the person behind this disease. What imbalances are there? Is it physical? Is it emotional? Is it psychosocial? Is it even spiritual? You just don't know.
Yes.
And when you start to ask the right questions, and that's the key thing, asking the right questions. When you ask the right questions, then you get to see. You sort of see, you ask that question, and I guess I get this intuitive nudge. Aha. I asked that question and the eye shifted, or something went wrong, or just a subtle change. Maybe even the hand moved and you said, I'm getting warm. I'm getting warm.
So it's almost as if you have to read the body language of your patient sometimes to get to the truth.
Yes.
You've learned to listen to the unsaid.
Yes.
Because most communication, they say 60% of our communication is our body language, not so much the words that are coming out of our mouths, correct?
It's so true. And I never realized that and a lot of what I'm doing now, I had started doing years ago in my practice, even as a medical student. But nobody taught me that it was okay. So I kept very quiet about it. You'd get an intuitive nudge, something is not right there. So you'd examine and you'd go and look.
And then
you'd find
that
it.
Something there.
But there was nothing to tell you. So you just found it.
Okay.
And I now talk very freely about how my intuition guides me through everything, and most importantly in the work that I do.
Okay.
Because I couldn't do half the diagnoses that I give to my patients. There's something beyond just looking at the patient and examining, just looking at the physical signs and symptoms. There has to be more. And I think we have to start in all aspects of life, in all areas, start looking beyond the obvious.
Yeah.
Or what we think. What we think is the obvious.
Yes.
Because what we think is the obvious is not always that. So that has just been it's been amazing for me, really.
Okay, now we're going to take a little commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about aging, and especially aging for women and longevity. So we'll be back in a minute. Okay, we're back again with Dr. Tanya, all the way in St. Lucia. Welcome back, everybody. That was a small commercial to encourage you to sign up for our next online summit. Go onto our website, theherstorycircle.com. We would love to hear your stories and share them with the world. So, Dr. Tanya, I'm in my 50s. I am going through the change. Very, very challenging time in a woman's life, something that most women are not really prepared for. We know it's coming. We've been told 1 or 2 symptoms here and there. And then one day you find yourself in there and you feel like you're going absolutely crazy.
Well, I am in my 50s as well. And I went through it already.
All right.
But I don't think it's a time where we should be afraid. I think a lot of women go into this time and they start to think that it's all about hot flashes and aging fast, and it's not. I think it's a time when we step into our power.
Mm-hmm.
It's a time when the body starts to do different things.
Yes.
But if we know that we own our bodies, and if we have been in tune with our bodies for a while now, and we've been taking care of ourselves, and we've been putting ourselves first, it's not as traumatic as people have to make it out to be. That is my personal. If you start preparing yourselves from even in your 20s, you know, we think that we're invincible in our 20s. We can do so much. We may be starting our families, and so we put our families first. Then into our 30s, it's career and families, and we try in this amazing balancing act that never works. And then reach our 40s, and then all of a sudden the eyesight goes, and you start to wonder, and you may see a wrinkle here or there. But everybody's looking at it from the outside.
Yes.
You know, you're coloring your hair and you're doing everything. But we need to start looking deeper at how our cells are working. And I think knowledge is power. And if we start to educate young women on how their bodies work beyond just about periods and the usual, let's learn our cycles. Let's learn our bodies. Let's learn what foods work for us and do, because not everybody can eat the same things.
That's true.
Let's learn what type of exercise works for us. Not everybody is a runner. Not everybody is, a yoga would work. So we have to start to get in tune with what works for each and every one of us
as an individual.
It's individualized, and then as we get through the changes, I'm not saying it's easy. I've had my hot flashes. I think what worked for me is that I got it fairly early, so I didn't realize it was a hot flash. I just thought it was hot.
I love it.
So I just thought it was hot while I was doing this, You were
one of the lucky ones.
I was getting them, but I just thought, it's hot today.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Because I was told that menopause begins in your late 40s into your 50s. And I actually started having it in my early 40s. So I figured you're stressed and you have so much going on and it's hot. I'm in the Caribbean. It's hot all the time. So I'm just doing this and I'm fanning and, I have a night sweat and I take off my, I change in the middle of the night. Never occurred to me until I thought, I'm perimenopausal, and then I really got into the functional medicine aspect of how to treat my body. Right. And I started watching my cycle and preparing myself physically for it.
Yes.
Emotionally, honestly, I don't think I wasn't scared. And I wasn't because, I don't know, maybe I was too busy to be scared.
Yes.
You understand? I was working.
Yes,
I had
working.
Kids, I was working. I had my 3 children. I was, I'm married. I have business to run. I was just too busy to be scared.
Okay.
So it was happening to me. And instead of allowing it to happen to me, I took control, tuned into my body. I know what works for me. I knew what foods worked. I started to do yoga and realized that I don't need certain foods in my life anymore.
Okay. So tell me, what were the things that you cut out? Let's get really specific here.
Sugar. For me,
okay,
I have a sweet tooth. So you put a cupcake in front of me and I will eat it.
Okay.
I will eat it. But I realized that sugar didn't do well with me. I got bloated. I just didn't feel right after a while.
Right.
But it took me a while to say, okay, you need to cut back on sugar. Processed foods as well. I was the usual, you pick up something and that's how you pick up a croissant for breakfast. And so, and I thought that sugar, the processed foods, the wheat didn't agree with me. I felt sluggish. I felt bloated. I just wasn't feeling right. I wasn't feeling vibrant.
Okay.
So I slowly started reducing what I ate.
Yourself.
I just started to reduce the amount. So what I would do is that I still wanted my cupcake, but I would have a big cupcake and cut it into 4 pieces. And I allowed myself a quarter every afternoon.
I love
that.
I
didn't have as much of it. So I allowed, and I realized, you can do this.
Yeah.
And I started investigating and looking online for recipes and realized I could have some coconut sugar sometimes. And I started following a lot of the paleo plans and using almond flour instead of wheat.
Weight.
And I
Uh-huh.
realized once I started doing that, everything shifted for me. My weight shifted. And there's a
Okay.
story that I tell people that in my very early 40s, I was working very hard. I was expanding my clinic, in fact, opening a new where my clinic is now. And I was working really hard and I was trying to keep up with the exercise, but I wasn't eating well at all. You know, the cupcakes it was more than one cupcake a day. That was what was going on. But my scale was saying it was the weight that, you know, the world says I should be. But my clothes were saying something totally different.
Right.
My clothes were saying something totally different. You know, it was a little tighter around here. You got a little bit of, you know, tightness in the legs. The skirt wouldn't fit the same way. But the scale said it, so I was good. Until one day I went to my trainer and I said, you know, something doesn't feel right. I said, oh, let me weigh you. I was 10 pounds over. My scale had broken.
Oh, wow.
My scale was broken. So I was so attached to that number of what the scale said. I had just ignored the signs that my body was trying to tell me. I was gaining weight. Because my clothes were getting tighter. You know, I wasn't as vibrant. But you know what? Once that number on the scale was good, I felt life was good. And it really was a big aha moment for me where I realized that I had to ditch my attachment to that number. And it's still something I'm working on. It's not as easy as I would like it to be. I still, you know, monitor my weight carefully, which I think we should all do. Not that we're totally attached to it, but we should know, you know, you go somewhere and you during the pandemic, we all had, I call it the comfort 10. Which was a comfort 10 pounds because of cortisol, because we're eating badly, because some of us were in lockdowns. But I think the time has come for us to ditch this comfort 10 and really
shake it off.
And try to take it off. I mean, I'm still battling it myself, but for now, I'm using myself as a guinea pig to see what works. And as I know that I'm a physician, I'm still working in a pandemic. It's not easy. It really isn't. So I do whatever I can to manage my stress. I exercise as often as I can. You know, I prioritize certain things. I make sure that I get up on a morning and do my meditation. I watch what I eat. But I'm also not, I do it 80% of the time. So 20% of the time, I allow myself to have some fun. So I want a cupcake. I'd buy the mini cupcake, or if it's a large one, I'll cut it in half. I'm done.
The thing is not to starve yourself completely. Then the cravings just become even more. So let's finish off with who is Dr. Tanya, the woman. I know you're a mother. How many children do you have? How old are they?
I have 3, 28, and by the end of this year, I will have a 25-year-old and a 21-year-old. I have 2 boys and my daughter. My daughter graduates from university, hopefully, knock wood, cross fingers, at the end of the year. So I'm looking forward to this new chapter where, you know, the children have finished university and they're all, you know, going to spread the wings that I guess I've been part of. Married to a wonderful husband. It's when I think about it, and as I said, today is Doctor's Day, and I think, man, as a child, I knew I was going to be a doctor. I was one of those poring over this books that my parents had called Modern Ways to Health, and I would read it through. And I remember once, I was about 9, diagnosing my aunt with stomach flu.
Oh,
I said, you just have stomach flu. And they're all looking at me. What is stomach flu? I said, I just read it. Read that. That was my first diagnosis, and I felt so good because it was right. I was right. She had stomach flu.
You were born to be a doctor.
And I just knew I was going to do it. But I didn't expect that it would take me through Western medicine, back to the ancient medicine, and then back into the midst of a pandemic in 2021 where we know nothing really, you know, we know nothing.
It's true.
We know absolutely nothing. We what we thought we knew has been thrown out the window. Completely. So we sort of have to look at the work. I look at the work that I do through a whole new lens. I'm very clear now that I have to look at each person based on their past experiences, their genetics, you know, their current experience, and so many other factors. and just hold space for them to transform their health and their lives. So it's been quite an eye opener, this pandemic, I have to say.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Thank you so much to everybody who's tuned in. I think we have received a few nuggets of wisdom from Dr.
Thank you.
Tanya in terms of women and women's health and how we can look after ourselves. A parting thought, is there anything I should have asked you that can help women during the pandemic to take care of themselves better?
Give yourself a little break. There's no right way to do the pandemic. There is no right way. But you still want to eat whole, unprocessed foods. You want to make sure you stay hydrated with water, cut back on alcohol. Try to exercise. I know many of the gyms are closed, so you don't want to go to the gym. But you know what?
Go for
The
a
internet
walk.
has opened. No, but the internet has opened. A lot of gyms are now online. You can take classes online. I mean, I so much has opened up for me, because I'm beyond St. Lucia now. I've gone to other parts of the world working out with people who, I would never have gotten a chance to do it in person.
Yes.
You can exercise. Make sure that you manage stress in a healthy manner. If a lot of us are disconnected and lonely because of the, physical distancing. And so reach out. If you're struggling, reach out and speak to your healthcare professional or somebody who you trust.
Who can help you,
Sleep. We're all Netflixing and staying up late watching it, but the greatest anti-aging tool is sleep, good restorative sleep.
Excellent. And how can people get hold of you?
I am my website is tanyabobran.com. I'm on Facebook as Tanya Destang Bobran, or you can get me at Satya Integrative Medical Services, which is my baby, my clinic. I am on Instagram as Dr. Tanya Bobran, and I'm also on LinkedIn as Tanya Destang Bobran.
Fantastic.
So yeah,
I will share these links with this video. Thank you so much for coming online today. Wonderful to meet you.
Same here.
Goodbye, everybody. Have a fantastic day wherever you are in the world. Wonderful.
Yes.
So that was Dr. Tanya. Very insightful interview we had there.
Yes, that's an amazing things that she's done, and the way she's made her changes. I was very enlightened, especially about menopause. I mean, I went through menopause kind of like she did, where I was going through it and kind of went. All I did notice was one day I didn't want someone to touch me, and I'm a very touchy-feely person. I just didn't want to. And I thought, this is weird. Why am I doing that? I'm a hugger, and and that was the only thing that I noticed and I got over it really quick, by the way, because I willed that to be gone. Because, you can get in a habit of not being close. You can.
It's very true.
A very bad habit of pushing people away. And then it becomes more permanent, and that's totally not what I wanted. I wanted,
you're in trouble then.
Yeah, that's what I think, is if you don't recognize that things like this are happening, then you can get yourself. It's the same thing with depression.
Yeah.
Depression comes to all of us. We all have depressing moments. Something happens and it makes us feel sad. That's normal. But wallowing in it or letting it take us over is what makes us ill and makes depression. And when my late husband passed away, it was very sudden. And 2 days later, I went to the doctor, and the first thing he did was offer me antidepressant.
Oh, wow.
I was not depressed. I was sad. I mean, I was devastated by that loss so quickly. I was blindsided by it. I took the antidepressant for 2 days and thought, I'm not even present right now. I didn't. But see, I didn't have clinical depression.
Okay.
I've never had clinical depression, and I know people that do, where their body they have a medical condition that causes the depression.
Yeah, and everything shuts down.
Yeah, and what I'm talking about is people who, like me, who we can talk ourselves into being more depressed, or
Yeah.
look on the right side and try and I have definite methods that I use every single time I start feeling like I'm depressed. Then I put stuff into perspective and I think, really, I don't have anything to be depressed about. I do recognize that there's such a thing as physical depression and mental depression. When we're overtired, and Dr. Tanya talked about how important it is for sleep. When we're overtired, and especially for me, if I get a migraine and I don't take care of it, or I don't let myself have that relaxation and let it go, it's easy.
Then you're in trouble.
It gets you into, and I had one period in my life, luckily only once, where I had a migraine for 30 days straight. From June 1st to June 30th, I had a migraine. And
Wow.
no matter what I took, I couldn't get it to go away. And by the end of that, I was physically depressed. My body was broken down because I just couldn't take the headache anymore. It's like, and then you start thinking, letting yourself get to the point where you're thinking negative thoughts about yourself. And once we get into that becomes a habit. And when that becomes a habit, it can be detrimental.
Man. Well, I think having the awareness is part of the solution. That when you can catch yourself in that moment and you are aware of where you're going, then you're halfway to solving whatever the problem is.
Exactly. And like I said, I have met a lot of people who have depression that when they aren't medicated, they're always angry. That's a completely different thing. When I think that there's definite uses for medications, and someone who is completely out of control when they're not on the medication, and they're in control when they're on it. When we're in control, we do feel better about ourselves. There's just when we're in control. She made such good points about taking control of our bodies and recognizing our bodies and knowing what our bodies need. I need to take some of her counsel. Definitely need at this point in my life to take some of her counsel, because she's absolutely right about the sugar. And I've just been eating way too much sugar, and I need to listen to what she said and
just cut it back a little bit, right?
Yeah. And years ago, I used to work for Weight Watchers.
Right.
And when I wait for Weight Watchers, I lost 50 pounds.
Okay.
And so I became a Weight Watcher leader. And I remember one time, our church has a girls' camp every summer. And I was in charge. I was the head cook for 150 people. I would cook every single day, 3 meals a day.
Oh, wow.
And the last day of camp, I'll never forget this. I got super stressed because someone accidentally, instead of putting a tablespoon of salt into the pizza dough, which we only had enough to finish that day, she put a cup of salt into the pizza dough. And I got so panicked by that, because we were up in the mountains. We didn't have access to, I got so panicked about that. I ran back to my cabin, and I still was in control enough that I counted out how many M&Ms I was going to eat. I counted out 8 M&Ms, and that was when I realized, okay, well, at least I didn't go eat the whole bag of M&Ms.
Right.
I only ate the 8 I normally would if I was treating myself.
Yes.
But I was stress eating them at that point. And ended up, you couldn't even tell there was a cup of, when we had to make the pizza, we had all these people to feed. And I was paranoid that they were all going to gag on this. You couldn't even tell. You couldn't even tell she put a cup.
Crazy.
Although I did go up there and add some sugar to it to kind of counteract the salty flavor.
Yes.
But you know, we can get ourselves in some really good habits. And it sounds like she's got it all figured out with the quarter cupcake, or when she's really wanting a treat.
And that's the thing, is not to punish yourself and not have it.
Right.
It's have it, but in moderation.
Yes.
I think that's where we kind of run into problems, when we are so busy trying to limit ourselves.
Yeah.
And then when you do have it, you go overboard.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was the biggest lesson for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think she really made some great points. And especially about, you know, I've known a lot of people with asthma, and
Mm-hmm.
it can be pretty deadly. And yet she thought, okay, well, I've got to figure some things out for myself.
Yeah.
And it's so nice that she had the ability to do that. We do need to speak up. If we don't have the knowledge that she has, we need to at least speak up with our doctors and say, hey, something's not right. This
Yes.
is, you know, I've surrounded myself with some great people that help me. And
Right.
I don't feel the least bit lost at all when it comes to those kind of things. But, you know, and I think that's why when they told me I had cancer, I wasn't panicked. I felt strong enough to say, okay, well, we're just going to take this one day at a time. We're going to fight it, because I have a lot I want to do in my life still. And we're going to fight it, and we're going to beat it. And then if we don't beat it, we're going to make the best of everything.
Yes.
Which made my whole process not very painful. You know, might have been physically painful at times, but not heart wrenching, you know, like that kind of pain.
Yeah.
I've not experienced that.
Oh, man. Okay. So maybe we move on to our next presenter, which is the beautiful Karen. I think she's not going to be able to join us, but she sent us an updated video.
Good.
So Karen is one of our members. She's trying to get onto the TED platform to do her first TED Talk. So she keeps sending us updates of improved videos. This time it's a good 14 minutes. So Karen, maybe you will join us a little bit later, but we are going to play your video now. So just to give everybody an idea of who Karen is, I'll quickly read her bio. She is a financial literacy expert, a best-selling author, a speaker, helping her clients develop healthy financial habits and generate a wealth mindset. So that's a really good thing to know. So thank you, Karen. Hopefully you will join us a little bit later today. If not, we will give you feedback and you can watch this video when you have the time. So this is Karen Ulsa.
My name is Karen Azer. Thank you so much for having me today. Today, I'm going to talk to you about daring to dream your dream. My life was very different 8 years ago. I had a high paying corporate job. I lived in a big house, drove a nice car, could afford to go on big fancy vacations. Then, bam, everything changed for me in August of 2014 when I was T-boned in my car right outside of my doctor's office. I then had to go on a bed rest for 12 weeks from all the injuries that I sustained. It was the first time that I stood still for probably decades. My life would continue to take many more twists and turns over the following 4 years as I struggled with Lyme disease and then later was diagnosed with third stage colon cancer. While those experiences may seem awful, I actually viewed them as a gift because the reality was that I was miserable and I was living a joyless life. And it gave me a chance to reflect and realize that I just spent the last 40 years of my life living somebody else's dream for me. Over those 4 years of getting treatments, I had the opportunity to shed the beliefs that were keeping me from my dream. Some of those lies included I'm an introvert. I don't do relationships. No one cares about me. Wealth will destroy your character. The concepts that words have power is nonsense. I hate working with professional women. The coaching business is a scam. My story is not worth sharing. Who would want to be associated with a freak like me? I also realized that I had to change my tribe. Most of the people in my life were trying to take me back to the old days of marinating in my pain or refusing to take action. So I was at a crossroad. I had dealt with the negativity of my life, the negativity in my life, but I wasn't sure what to do next. So I hired a coach who asked me what my dreams were. I answered by telling her what they weren't. But I realized that I had not, in that moment, I realized that I had not given myself a chance and given myself a permission to explore my own dreams. She then asked me to close my eyes and start to imagine what my life would be like. I'm now in the middle of making what I experienced a reality. I'm now a dream igniter who helps women step into new levels of financial freedom and confidence with unstoppable joy. So today, I'm here to share the dream sequence I recently created called Daring to Dream Your Dream that will help you uncover your dreams without having to go through a personal crisis like I did to activate it. So let's start. Now remember, this is your dream. So just relax and be brave. Now close your eyes. And now what I'd like you to do is remove the people who cause you pain and tell you what to do. Remove any stresses like daily routines or screaming kids or demanding spouses or noise in your neighborhood. Anything that causes you anxiety. Remove dreaded responsibilities. Just leave your job behind if it doesn't bring you joy. Remove any voices that say you are not enough or say you're crazy to dream, especially your own voice, which is often the loudest. Just put it aside for a moment. It will be there later. Now that we've had a chance to get rid of the negative influences in your life, let's move into the second phase of this sequence. It's time to start building your dream. Where would you be? What would you be doing? Who would you bring into your life to support, encourage you in this dream? What drives you? What motivates you? What brings you joy? What comes easily to you? What makes you forget to eat? What kind of job would you be doing? Would you be working for a small company or a big company with all the big company benefits? Or perhaps starting your own company? And if so, what kind of company would it be? Or maybe you're freelancing. You could be a writer, a photographer, or perhaps writing a book, sharing your story because so many people can be impacted by it. And if so, what would you write about? What stories would you share? What stories have you shared with people that brings them alive and make them feel connected to you? What would you be doing in your free time? Would you be traveling or relaxing on a beach? Or playing in the oceans? And can you just imagine the sound of those waves, jumping in them, boogie boarding, if that's what you like to do, jumping in the waves, surfing? Or maybe you're on a porch reading a book. What else do you like to do in your free time? Do you like to hike? Just imagine yourself going up the side of the mountain, hearing the rustling of the leaves as you go from step to step and you look at the peak that you're going towards. Is that something that excites you? That's what makes you happy? Or maybe you're like to ride a bike. Are you a mountain biker? where you like to go with the trails and you like to just like off-roader and you like that kind of adventure? Or you may be a cyclist and you're going miles and miles and you just feel the air going in your face, or on a motorcycle. Or in your free time, do you just like hanging out with family and friends? Does that make you excited? Does that make you feel warm and fuzzy? What are some of your smells? Bring that into your smell, because when we bring in all of our senses, it's really easy to remember what the whole exercise, the place that we've gone. So if you got a favorite candle smell or a favorite perfume, just take it in and think about it right now. Where would you live? Would you be in a big neighborhood with big houses and a big clubhouse and a swimming pool and all sorts of bustling about? Or would you be in a small house where you feel very small and safe and contained? You're a minimalist. Would you be in a city with all the vibrancy of a city, where you go to plays and go to the symphony and they have sporting teams that you participate in and all sorts of culture that they're involved in? Or are you somebody that prefers to be in the quiet countryside? Are you somebody that likes to go on the country roads, and as you're walking, you see the sheep and the goats and the cows and maybe see a horse galloping by? Is that what brings you alive? Is that what makes you excited? Who would you be serving? When we are serving who we were called to serve, it is good for our immune system. So think about who you'd be serving in your dream. We all have something in us that just connects and say, I want to serve that group of people. And is it in alignment with what brings you alive and some of the things we've already talked about? Would you be working with children or helping with the elderly? Or maybe rescuing dogs. Are you a dog person, or working with cats or other animals? Or maybe doing missionary work? Have you been called to go to faraway lands and to help people with whatever they need help with, or to be even being a local missionary, working in urban areas or going out to rural areas and helping with development? Is that something that brings you alive? So what I would like you to do right now is I'd like you to picture the faces whoever you thought of to serve. And I like you to see on their faces how they would feel when they know that you took time out of your life just to serve them. And what a beautiful exchange of energy that is. Imagine that right now. Lock that in your mind. Now I'd like you to think about who is supporting you in this dream. Who is in your tribe? Now, last, we're going into the next phase. Let's fast forward into your retirement. We saw the places of where you were and what you would be doing in our last sequence. That's where you are today. Would some of that change as you move into your retirement? If you live in the city, would you be moving out to the countryside? Or maybe vice versa. Maybe you've lived out in the farm and you're tired of working on the farm and you're going to want to live in a condo. Or if you've been in the city, do you want to go back out to that beach? Is that a place that it will no longer just be the place you vacation, a place where you live permanently? Smell the ocean breeze. Or if you're a lake person, imagine yourself sitting on the port on the dock watching the motorboats go by. Is that what you're doing in your retirement, with the margarita in one hand and your book in another? Is that what you want to be doing when you're at rest in your retirement? Or are you somebody that really wants to go and be on the move? Are you going to be on the plane, jet setting, going from one place to another, going on an adventure that you always wanted to go on, but you couldn't because you had too many responsibilities? Maybe you're doing that now. Imagine where that plane would go. Or would you be somebody that you spend a lot of time volunteering, or finally have that time to volunteer and create an organization, create a foundation? What kind of legacy do you want to be leaving when you pass on? When they think of your name, what do you want them to think? Do you want them to think of an energy, a personality, emotion, or a foundation you created? Or are they imagining the way that you are serving them? How do you want to be remembered? You have the power to make it happen. So what I like you to do now is I'd like you to open your eyes. And my question for you is your life path taking you there? Will your finances get you there? And if not, what changes would you have to make in order to bring that to life? So what the next step of this is, the final step is that I would like you to create a vision board. First, if you want to, whatever you could do most quickly, you can jot it down. You want to remember everything that we just went through. So you can jot it down, but we are visual people. And so if we see pictures, we're more apt to remember it and look at it, because once you create a vision board and you can put pictures or words, put it somewhere where you can see it to be reminded constantly. And then tell a friend, because that's how you create accountability. And then after that, make sure you hang it up and you review it often. When life's just getting you down, go and look at that. Look at those faces, look at those dreams and say, this hard work is worth it, and I'm going to stick to it through the highs and the lows. So as I leave you today, I like to leave you with an acronym, and that is DREAM. So you can remember what this is. And so you can also take your friends through this, because when you do this with your friends, you're more apt to stick with it as well. And you can share in each other's dreams. So D stands for dare to dream your dream. No one else's dream for your life. R, remove all negativity, people, thoughts, activities, voices in your head, even jobs. E, embrace your innermost passions in all areas of your life. A, activate your senses, imagination, and the possibilities. And finally, M, make it a reality. Take action by creating a dream board, as I just said. Tell a friend, get a coach, and accountability partners to make sure you stay on track. And I can't wait to hear in the chats and all the other areas that we created for you. I can't wait to hear about what your dream is. So go tell a friend and have a wonderful day.
Fantastic.
Wow, I think she's pretty much ready. That was very well done.
Sounds so good.
Yeah, that was great.
Thank you, Karen. And I love the acronym at the end. It's so easy to remember. And that's really what people need when you are delivering a speech and you're giving them a process. It has to be simple and easy to remember. Wow, thank you so much, Karen. Really lovely to see your presentation evolved so much to this point.
Very nice, yes.
I mean, we all have visions of what we want to create, and sometimes it's difficult to decide what that can be, but beautifully done. Absolutely stunning. I'm really pleased at where your presentation is going and can't wait to catch up with you later this week and see how much further we can take it. We have 2 more days to go off the summit, so I'll give you some feedback tonight, Karen, and maybe you send us another video tomorrow and the day after, but absolutely awesome. You've come a long way. So one of the things that the HerStory movement does is we give feedback to our speakers, to the women in our network who have ideas, who have stories, and who have a vision to get on the TED platform. I am a 3-time TED speaker. I've learned how to hack to get on TED. So if any of you out there are needing support in that direction, please inbox me. TED is a game changer for you as a speaker. It gives you instant credibility. People look at you differently when you've gone on the TED platform. So it's really something good for you to aspire towards as a female speaker, trying to get your voice out there. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Karen. So our next video is from Vidishni Singh. Vidishni came and presented at our last online summit. She brought with her a whole collective of South African women who, like women in Zimbabwe, would never get an opportunity to speak on a platform like this, One, mostly because they don't have the access to the internet. So they came to her home and we were able to hear some amazing stories. So we'll start with Videshni, and then we will listen to 2 or 3 of the stories from the women in her community. So thank you for facilitating and making it possible for women to get access. It's when we start sharing our resources that we can all make a difference in the world as women. Thank you so much for this. I think there was an error. We'll try that again. It picked up on the last video that we had been playing. Here we go.
Tangible act of selflessness during motherhood. For me, all right, with regards to the stories that I have listened to thus far, especially after listening to all of the accounts of the beautiful souls on this platform, I decided today that I'm going to speak from the heart, setting a powerful intention as I share to divorce ourselves from our minds, and only for the next few minutes to indulge me in taking you into a journey of my own heart. So some years ago, I read that traditional feminine qualities solely was the preserve of women have been things like cooperation, support, working for the good of the whole rather than the individual, covering for those in need of help, speaking your truth, listening rather than forcing your views on others. And today, I want to add to that the feminine preserve of selflessness. So I was influenced very early on in my young life, as young as 10 or 11 years old, by a spiritual mentor on the path of selfless service. You see, he was a medical doctor all those years ago in India, and he gave up his practice just to serve. And I think through his journey, he said, service to mankind is service to God. When I looked at his journey and later on in my own country of birth, that of South Africa, I was reading about the work of Dr. Imtiaz Soleiman. And if you look at his work, you too will agree with me that he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize for what he is achieving in terms of support of people during that. His journey was motivated by the word of God. Currently, I work for an international aid organization and founded by another phenomenal man, Peter Pretorius, in South Africa. And his work too began around the word that he received from God to serve the people of Africa. But for me, the greatest lesson in selflessness came in my own journey of motherhood, which is largely a female's domain. From the moment of being handed a child, let's go back 2 months before that. Let's go back 9 months before that. You are conscious of this wonderful blessing. Your body kicks in to overdrive because you're constantly focusing on the survival of another human being and being charged with the responsibility of bringing that child into the world. And truthfully, nobody applauds women for that very tangible act of selflessness during motherhood. For me, it brought me the greatest lessons. And almost 20 years ago, when I first became a mother and began that journey, I started bringing women together for support that I saw wasn't readily available to women 2 decades ago. So moving out of extended homes and communities that we lived in, we were forced to reconcile this journey of motherhood with raising a family, focusing on our career, And all that from inspirational selflessness that nobody applauds women for except other women. And I've looked at world examples of feminine leadership, like in New Zealand, in Germany, how often we discount the glorious stories of hope by dismissing this as first world experience as being different, or than saying we can't let them try to do that in a country that is a third world country where I am from. And again, while I know this is a minority point of view, it is largely relevant. Fast forward now to my own journey of motherhood, where my third baby, if ever selflessness of motherhood was tested, in the 6 hours I took to get 60 milliliters of breast milk into the mouth of a severely clefted baby. He was born with a birth defect, a cleft lip, and a palate. And he endured over 15 operations in the first 5 years of his life. I never questioned his arrival in my life at all. I saw it as a passage into greater purpose, because in this motherhood journey, I could connect with other mothers of children born with special needs. Back to selflessness. So over the course of my journey, I got to meet Nelson Mandela in this country. And I actually have a special message from him made out to my husband and I, knowing that we came from a family of anti-apartheid activists. And he wrote to me almost 22 years ago, sending his best wishes to a couple who earned his respect and admiration. To me, that message felt more fortuitous to the role that was unfolding in my life in terms of service. And it is true, as the earlier speaker pointed out, that Madiba implored us not to be afraid of our light. So in that space of motherhood of the special needs child, I began to question more the purpose of this child in my life and the purpose of motherhood. Yudav, who is my special baby, was a reminder to me about how the world deals with imperfection. Here he was shining in his imperfection and forcing me to revisit the plasticity of a perfect existence, right down to the surreal messages that were passed to us at the time by friends and families that said to us, their children were scared and having nightmares after seeing our baby. To me, Yudav was the greatest gift to my household because he taught my other 2 children to be protective over what wasn't perfect, to have empathy that I see carried out in them right to this day as young adults. And together in this household, we have brought up and raised a very confident 12-year-old boy. But not only was this journey into realizing selflessness and imperfections, it also led me to my own existence. I actually became a lawyer to fight injustice in this world. For my sins and finishing on at the top of my law class, I was in the early days, taken to work in one of the largest law firms in our country in South Africa. And this was all very sexy and attractive in my career. But after Yudav was born, I actually became a legal academic, and students would come up to me with great respect because of the background that I came from, because I represented the appeal of working in a large law firm where you could earn tons of money and build wealth and status for yourself. And you can imagine, with the impact of that journey of imperfection in a perfect existence, understanding the plasticity of this world, I was already standing in front of lecture rooms at that stage, imploring on young students to think of how they could use their qualifications to serve communities. So, I wondered what kind of effect that might have had on them earlier in my life and now, as I, look back, and I realized that they are still following my journey in humanitarian work. So there is still hope and power in youth today. I know, COVID has forced us into a space where we realize very quickly our connectedness to each other. we realized very quickly how we lost sight of what was important in this world. For me, my awakening might have been the special needs baby, but for a large number of us, the world is starting to become awakened as a result of understanding of that connectedness of each other. And, we cannot function daily with ignoring, how malnutrition in Africa, where you have children that are, blinded by malnutrition, ravaging and scavenging in rubbish heaps to gain food, while the rest of the world is eating healthily during this period. It speaks to me largely about how, while those messages are there, and while some of us have awakened in our journey, and I'm very happy to say that even some youth wake up to the purpose of their existence very early in their lives. But we're almost forced to question, like, why is it that people give up this idea of selflessness so early in the world, and so early in their journeys? And I think it is because we've lost sight of connectedness and our heart's connection and what's so important and what's so relevant in this world. In terms of my own journey, I set up Lightworkers. And when I speak to transformational leadership beginning in a space of selflessness, I recount, the words of my other great mentor, Mahatma Gandhi, who said, you actually find yourself when you lose yourself in the service of others. And for me, when I took a job in social services after coming out of training as a magistrate's court, in the children's court for a short while, I realized that I was going to get lost in the service of people, because after working in communities for close on to 7 years with Lightworkers, the organization I formed, I was able to spin programs into existence for, people that were affected by all of the social ills that actually connect together. Poverty connects with drugs, and no matter what community you might be in the world, these problems are rife all over. And my journey now is also to share a large part of that lesson with the rest of the communities in the world. And that is why I accepted the sponsorship to this platform to discuss that very important change and transformative journey in my life. I believe that we are all here for a purpose, and there is such an appeal in terms of transformational leadership in serving selflessly. And it really is something that I would advise on, because we don't transform when we enter platforms with our hero capes and see ourselves as above the people we serve. We transform when we are actually working from a level of connectedness, from a level of empathy with everybody that is around us, from an understanding that mother's pain can be my own pain. That mother's rehabilitation journey could easily have been me. We understand our connectedness and our purpose, and God giving us the challenges because we have to rise from them. And it is only in that space of selflessness that we awaken to our greater purpose. And today I can speak of that journey of selflessness. Most people actually have asked over the years, they question my purpose, and they question whether I'm trying to become popular over this. And I think that's a very unfair thing that is dealt to women as well, because as I said, it's very much expected in our femininity to be that selfless. But I've also traversed paths where there are people that are inspired by this journey, international communities themselves, just like this platform, who speak to purpose and connectedness. And for me, where I am at right now, and what I wanted to share specifically, is that in serving communities, in bringing about these programs in rehabilitation, in bringing about the various gender-based violence programs, the programs run to equip women with basic skills, I also knitted together parts of me. And in many respects, it was through the selfless act and the selfless devotion with which I served that I was knitting myself and pieces of myself whole again. And I'm going to be sharing that journey on every platform that I may be welcomed on, because there is a beauty in selfless service, and true leaders don't transform in the space of selfishness. They transform in the space of selflessness. And that is why I believe that it is something that is promoted by spiritual mentors all over the world, that transformation of yourself and of others begins in the space of selflessness. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Wow. Selflessness is the message that Vidashni had to share with us today. How can we be in constant service to others?
That is a great message. There's no better. I mean, I think earlier we talked about how sometimes people are depressed, but the best way to get out of depression is to be selfless and to turn around and serve someone. And especially in her case, she had this child, and I am a firm believer that families that receive children like this have the biggest blessing, because they get to grow in that little one's spirit. And I had a friend who he was on the spectrum, but you really couldn't tell. But as a child, he had been on the spectrum, and he was married to this lovely woman. They had two beautiful sons. I'm sorry, one beautiful son. And then they got pregnant. And they'd been trying for a long time to get pregnant.
Right.
We went to the doctor, and they told her the baby was going to be a Downs baby. And she didn't quite know how to tell her husband, because she wasn't sure of his reaction. And his reaction was, "Oh, that is so wonderful. The Lord has trusted us enough to take care of one of the special children." And he was just so excited, and like, oh my gosh, what a great reaction. I mean, she was still carrying the baby. And he was just so excited that they got to have one of these special children in their family. And I just thought, wow. How many husbands?
That's a beautiful story.
Yeah, how many husbands have that kind of reaction? And how she must have felt so good to be carrying this child that her husband couldn't wait to get to be a part of. I mean, she had resigned herself as soon as she heard that he was Downs, that she would be happy to raise this child, but her reaction afterwards was just, okay.
That is very, very special.
Yeah.
And that's when you realize that, sometimes you make an assumption of somebody, not really knowing who they are, how they will react and respond to a situation like that. It could have turned out to be something very negative, but it turned into something very, very positive.
Yeah, it was lovely. It was just
wow.
Yeah.
What a blessing. What an absolute blessing.
And
we're having a few comments coming in from Facebook. Let's just read this. Vidashni has just reawakened something in me. All my life, I found joy and fulfillment in serving others. People do not always need to have money to serve others. That's so true.
She's absolutely right.
Thank you for explaining it so plainly and deep. Thank you, Dorothy. Wonderful to have you on the summit today. Dorothy is in the UK. She's also from Zimbabwe, so she can so relate to Vidashni's message today.
Nice.
So one of the things Vidashni asked me to do was to share the stories of the other women that she brought to the summit when we first met. So I have about 6 more speakers, all from South Africa, all with very interesting stories. I'm going to start off with one that we haven't heard. So she's given us a video link to another young woman that she is working with. Yeah, so let's see how this goes. Here we go.
Okay.
Share my screen.
Good afternoon, how are you? My name is Hema, and I am so privileged to be able to share my journey with you from where I come from and from where I am today. I grew up in Indonesia, and I had a family. I was married, and then life being how it is due to circumstances, both my parents passed away, and I got divorced. After that, things were still a bit stable, but then it went downhill from there. I was teaching at a few campuses, and due to the rules and regulations, those campuses closed down. Then I got a job somewhere else where I worked for a long time, and then they let me go. And it just became more difficult in the strategy. I used to sell beauty products and to try and make ends meet until it became too much for me. And I lost my job, I lost my flat, and I lost my car. That was the worst point in my life. I hit downhill very fast. And due to that, I used to be counseled because of going through depression. And going for counseling for quite some time, I was introduced to sedation to help out in the home sector. And it was the best decision I ever made. As sedation was a counseling session with some ladies from underprivileged backgrounds that are rehabilitating from drug and alcohol abuse. I was a bit astounded because I felt I didn't belong to that group because I clearly wasn't on any drug or alcohol, but I was going through depression. After listening to how she encouraged those ladies, I realized that I can actually talk to her and see if she can give me a chance and help me in the homework center, which she did. She opened up her arms to me. And I helped there for quite some time. And I was very happy because Videshi has given so many women in Indonesia, including myself, hope. Always helpful, always there to listen. And there is not a time that you can go there with a problem, that you will walk away with the same problem. She always gives a solution. Coming from a background the way I have and hitting downhill, things became very difficult for me. I was forced to have to live with family. And it was not easy because of the fact that I had no parents to support me. I was divorced. And now I understand what they mean when they say that when you are alone, you're alone. Family can be your worst. They can be your worst friends, and they look at you with such judgment. One family member in particular was very abusive, very cruel, mentally, psychologically, emotionally. And it became very difficult for me. Where I would walk from one place to the other just to look for sales, to be able to get clients to buy my products. And eventually, I was getting tired. Things were not looking good. And people were judgmental. And coming from a background where you've had everything and then suddenly in a split second losing it and being in a situation that you never asked to be in, can be very difficult. And when you have people judging you, not knowing that you also gave them a good background, it's very difficult. People will judge you from your attire, from what you're wearing, to what you're driving, if you're driving anything, to what job you got, to what handbag you have. And the sad reality is, this is an everyday thing for every woman. And the sad conclusion I have come to is that in this life, there are very few good people sent by God. Through all the stipulations and the suffering time during COVID, Videshini never left me for a minute. If I called her and I was in need of anything from food to transport money, Videshini helped me and always made a plan. She never ever once refused me. From the days that I suffered, not even knowing how I was going to get through that day, she helped me so much. I come from a very difficult situation living with a particular family member where the housing situation is so bad. It's so bad. It's like pathetic that when I sent photos to Videshini, she was beside herself and so hurt. For this past almost a year, Videshini has helped me to bring my life together. I am now at another homework center, and this person you see today is not the person of 4 years ago. Because 4 years ago is when I met Videshini. She has been a pillar. I actually regard her as a sister. She treats me more better than my own family treats me. And I believe she's the sister I was supposed to have had that God brought together and brought us together. And I want everyone to know my experience and know how much Videshini has helped me and how much she helps so many people. And she's a true jewel. And if I can say anything, it would be that God blesses her in abundance. Because I don't know where would I have been today had it not been for Videshini. And I can't even begin to tell you. What would have happened to me. So I am doing this because I feel that I want to give back something to Videshini for how she gives back to us. She's a good, kind person. She's not selfish. She shares. And I'm so happy to know her. Videshini, you have made a big difference in my life. When my own relatives threw me to the curb, you picked me up. You gave me your hand and you led me. Thank you.
Wow. A true testimony to
Yes.
Videshini's work.
Yes, very much so. Very
She
much.
is a woman who puts others before her. She tries to make sure that where she sees an injustice, if she can do something to help, she can.
Right. That's
Wonderful.
awesome.
Yeah. So the next series of videos are women that she brought to the last HerStory online summit. We'll start with Charlene Shetty and see her story. Like I said, Videshini just has a knack of extending a hand to those who don't have and helping them have their stories be told. So the next series of videos are quite emotional, very, very different, but we wouldn't have had these stories if it wasn't for her.
Hello, my name is Charlene. Nice meeting you all beautiful ladies. Hello. Um, I'm Charlene. I'm 37 now at the moment. Um, I actually had a alcohol problem that's developed at the age of 18. I picked it up. I was stayed with my mom and my dad at the time because of they abusing the alcohol, being in an environment where there was drugs, alcohol. So I felt like, being as a young person, like everybody, my friends should tell me, but why don't try it? Let's do it, hang out. So why not listening to my mother and my father? I carried on doing my own things. The age of 16, I fell pregnant with my son. The child's father wasn't from here actually. He was actually from Maputo. And he was a person that should like woman. He wasn't always with us. So basically, my father actually helped me. My mother was happy because it was like a first grandchild. But my father was upset because I had to leave school. Um, and I had to look after my own son. My mother always say like if you look for it, you deal with it. Um, I want to tell you a little bit more about my background. Um, when I was like 9, my mommy and my father couldn't afford like basic like food fast. So I actually had to live with my sorry if I get emotional. I actually had to live with my granny, my father's mother, and in that being there, I was actually abused. I was like physically raped from morning to night, and which I did tell my granny about it. Nobody could like wanted to help me, so it's basically I had to accept it. So at the age of 9 to 14, going to school, told people about it. Nobody wanted to actually hear what I had to say. They said no, she's like lying. She want to go back home, things like that. So I think because of all that, what happened to me, I found out drinking was uh, like my medicine. It would take the pain away because I didn't felt anything when I should drink. I wasn't worried about my son because I knew my father was there to take care of him. I should drink with my mother because I found out like I felt like she was a drinking partner for me. Anyway, the thing is I got a second child, not realizing that I was affecting my big son. He was going to school. The thing is, he was doing drugs that caused by me, and I didn't accept it. I thought, no, you know what? It's his turn. If he want to do it, let him do it. It's up to totally him because the thing is, I did my share. I did my best. The then I had a small son. He's the 11 at the moment. So I had two children at a time. I was like 26. So I felt like drinking was more important, the fun, the friends. I should even sometimes steal from my husband so I could drink. And it was not so bad that I wasn't like at home. I should be with my friends in the street. If there was like a party, I should go out. If there was anything that was with alcohol, I should be there. At times also I shouldn't even come home because the way I should be so okay, the alcohol got so bad that at times I should like even like I was saying like I even should take money from my husband and I should drink and then like my mommy was my partner so she should basically come by my house or I should go by her house. In 2016 That's when I met Vereshni. She was hosting a alcohol and drug abuse at rival school. So I was at that meeting for my son for like a school meeting. So I went there to actually like hear what was it about. And then when I found out it was like about drugs and abuse and alcohol. So that's when I came home. I decided, maybe this is not for me. So I attended it. I went for there was in 2018 we recently had in Grable in Extension 2, it's called a Joshua Center, and we recently should have meetings there on a Mondays for abuse and alcohol and drugs. It was at 10 to 12 p.m. And then later I learned like not only my stories, I learned about other people's stories that were like even worse than mine. Like sometimes children were taken away, and like parents should actually hit their children. So at the stage, I like prayed on it, and I asked God, like like this is not for me. At times, I just even don't want to drink, and like because of my friends coming there. So because we've been friends, so it's like I had to drink. So I prayed about it. I asked God, please show me the direction, and I asked even for forgiveness for what I was doing was wrong. And I said, no, the thing is, I said my son was gonna do my trick, and the thing is, I wasn't gonna like hold him back. But not knowing that my son was using substance, a drug substance, and the thing is, like if I drank, he had to use a substance. So if I didn't drink, he won't use it. So it was like competition at one stage. Okay, my husband had no say about it. It was for him. It was like, I get up, you deal with it. It's your problem. It's your son. So I had this all on my head. So I had to choose now between my alcohol or my children's. I attended the meetings every Mondays with Videshni, and it was with still Akka Boven. We should go for the meetings. During that time, also there was Auntie Leshma, a life coach that also motivate, motivated the ladies how to deal with the problem, how to cope with it. I had a lot of anger issues. Like if you had to tell me something, I didn't care if you like me or not, I should tell you back. So I had to develop all that. I had to with my anger, to understand people, to understand my children's, and then last year in October, I made 1 year. I'm 1 year clean now, and thanks to all to God, to Auntie Videshni, and the thanks to God and my friends and the ladies that helped me. And just talking about the my son, he was okay. He did finish in his matric. I'm thank God for that. But it was it was times that even resident should like beat me up, and it was getting like violent. And people say, yeah, you chose it, and you shouldn't come home. Like you should do piece job. You should take his money. You should use it on substance. Then he was with the alcohol, and then I spoke to Auntie Leshma, and she's saying the thing is it's because of you. It starts at the home first, and then I'm joined a sewing group with Auntie Videshni. I thought that it could keep me occupied, being away from the alcohol. So we joined Auntie Jeannie in Fortsburg in 2018, and I developed like a sewing class. And I should always keep in touch with Auntie Videshni, let her know what's happening. And then in March also last year, the lockdown started, and Auntie Videshni helped us with food vouchers. She helped us like with I'm in a business with second-hand clothing. So Videshni helped me. She sponsored, like sent the word out for me, and I really thank God for her because she was like my mother. Because although my mother, my real mother was there, Auntie Videsha was my mother. She helped me, she supported me even when I told her about my son being on the substance, she was the one to say put him in the rehab. There was times where my son wanted help. Videshni was there. She got sponsors for his learnership. She got sponsors for his driving school. Okay, understanding with the lockdown, there was nothing to do. So at this moment, my son is in technical business. He went for a course, so we studying, and Auntie Videshni helped him with transport. I can thank God, like sometimes God sent an angel in your life, and that angel was Auntie Videshni. She changed my life completely. To compare to how I was, if I never had to meet Videshni, that 2017 in October, I think I should be a mess. My children should be a mess, and I was praying and fasting and I mean a lot. Okay, because of my childhood, I like children. I really like children. I don't like a child crying. If a child fall, I feel it for them because I think it because what happened to me when I was 9. And I would like to open up a feeling scheme at my community because at the moment where I stay, the government don't supply our community. And when you sit outside and you see children coming from school, going with the Tupperwares, house to house, begging for food. It hurts me when people just throw a little child and say, get away from my gate. It's so hurting. And it was at points where we were once upon a time like that. My mother was like, my father should give my mother money for food, but my mother should take it and she'll drink it. And so we were like, we grew up coming from school with no food. So because we were hungry, we had to do the same, go door to door, ask families, go beg by the top shops for a loaf of bread for us. So I know the feeling of when you come from school. You come from school, you hungry, you want to do your homework, you want to have a nice bath. But where I could stay now, we don't have that. And it's all like small children's, 2 to 6 years. And I would like to give back to the community, to give to the children that's in need a plate of food, even if it means if I pack it in a small containers and when they come past, just give it to them and say, God bless you. And I do volunteers, help people. Like in our church, they on a Saturday they do give out for the community in Extension 10. So I'm involved with it, and I would like to be part in anything that that is with children. And the one part I want to say is thank you, Auntie Videshni. God bless you, and I love you. I love you too much, my mommy. And I hope God give her the strength to change everyone's life. She's such a blessing. She changed our lives. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. I think I should be in my grave. I think I should be 6 feet under in my grave. And I stand here today and I testify what a wonderful, amazing person is Vireshni. They say you don't find people like that. It's hard to find people. Out of 10, it's only that one that will still help you. And I think out of that one, I won't even say one, out of a million, Vireshni is one of them. Thank you. God bless. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Charlene, for sharing your story.
Thank you.
You are beautiful. And I want to also say to you that, yes, God sent these angels into our lives, but you still have to do the work. You still have to make the decision. You still have to make the choice. So I want to celebrate you today that you made that choice to be healthy and to get better so that you can also make your difference in the world. So today I celebrate you for that.
Thank you.
Presley, shall we go on to the next speaker? Or do we want to ask everybody else?
Okay. Wow.
Boy,
Another
she's able to break a 3-generation cycle. Yeah, her mom.
And that is what happens a lot of the times with alcohol abuse, right?
Yeah.
When it runs in the family, it's very difficult to break that cycle.
It definitely is. Wow, that was amazing. And now she has a plan to go out.
Now she has a plan. Exactly.
It's not going to stop with that. That's amazing.
And the beautiful thing is her son also is in a much better position than he was then.
Right.
These are the small things that we kind of take for granted when we are encountered with situations like this. I lived in South Africa, and I understand the cycle of alcohol abuse was mainly created by the previous apartheid government. South Africa is wine country. It's a place where most of the vineyards are in South Africa. And instead of paying the local people with money, the locals were paid with wine.
Oh my goodness.
So it's the same as the Native American Indian people on the reservations all over the US and Canada. And that's what happened in South Africa. So I've witnessed it firsthand. Alcohol abuse was a huge, huge, huge problem when I lived there. You would go out into the farm area. Sometimes I'll take the kids and we'll go and buy, fresh vegetables and fruit. And it affected the local population in such a big way. It was heartbreaking to see, to watch.
I bet.
So,
wow.
A lot of these issues are generated by the systems that are in play, and people get hooked, and then it's just passed down generation to generation. And it's a very, very, very sad thing to observe. So kudos to her. And like what our beautiful sister said, Marilise, at the end, that, you can be given help, but it's the choice that she made to accept the help
and do the work
and do the work. Exactly. That would not have happened unless she was open and willing to allow her life to be transformed and changed. So thank you so much for being with us virtually again and giving us the opportunity to reshare your story. Very, very important for us to talk about these. And it's interesting, Jerry, that yesterday we had a similar story again with regards to alcohol abuse and its impact and effect. It's a story that repeats. We had Veronica Alexandra yesterday speaking about how she decided cold turkey to stop drinking and get her life together and lose a ton of weight. And now she's helping other women to do the same. So a lot of women suffer in silence. We suffer without telling anybody what we're going through. And when you can come out on the other side and share a story like this, your story truly becomes the light at the end of somebody else's tunnel. And that's the reason why we are sharing these stories and getting them out into the world in a big way. So thank you so much. So we have in our midst our next speaker, Belinda Crawford. I can see you are there. If you would like to unmute and just come on for a minute before we play your video, then we'll have our Q&A session afterwards. So Belinda, if you're there, just switch on your video. If you're not going to be on video, say hello.
Oh,
there she is.
Hi.
Welcome.
Yes, I was actually going up to the office since our lights just came back.
Okay. So we're going to just read your bio. We'll play your video. Then we'll ask you to come on for the Q&A session. Okay?
Not a problem.
Wonderful to have you with us.
What a beautiful
So
song.
great. Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Fantastic. So, Jerry, I've put the bio in the chat. Do you want to give that a go, or shall I read it?
Let me just go to that.
Mhm.
Okay. Belinda Crawford, a South African liminal. Her family includes 3 lovely children and an adorable grandson. She is an author and a popular motivational speaker. Belinda, a student of the University of Zulu Natal, completing a master's degree in theology. Additionally, she is the Earth Technology is the programs coordinator at the Ujamba centers regarding environmental and climate justice concerns. She focuses on developing contextual Bible studies and is passionate about social transformation. We look forward to seeing her video.
Fantastic. We'll play her video now.
Okay.
All right.
Hi, my name is Belinda Crawford and I am from South Africa. I'm 47 years old. I would like to say thank you for having me on the platform again this year and to speak and to share with you snippets of my story. One of the things that I would like to speak about this year is one of the pandemics that we are all dealing with globally, and that is gender-based violence. And I would like to share my story. And when I share my story, I hope that it would inspire, motivate, and it would influence someone else hearing this that has a similar experience as to how they can get out of it. I spoke about my story for the first time in 2017, and that had taken me more than 20 years to literally verbalize what had happened to me. I had kept this incident or these incidents that had happened to me to myself, and it had become part of who I was. It also was a part of my character formation, and most of all, it spilled over into my personality, some good and some bad. So when I shared the story for the first time, I shared it at the university because this is where I work. I am also a social activist and a student at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, and I am currently doing my master's in theology. And when I shared the story for the first time, one of the students was so inspired by the story, and she thought to write me a poem. So I would like to share my story in the way that she had expressed it in a poem, and it goes as follows. 6 to 13. 6 to 13, I was a little girl, barely breasts or thighs that could attract a man. 6 to 13, I was playing house, being a model, unbridled imagination that I could be anyone or anything I desired. 6 to 13, she became the one who touched her. The one caused her to bleed, both blood and femininity. 6 to 13, when her body was a child, some found sick freedom in the body of a child, in the tender thighs and unformed breasts. They tore at her flesh. They tore at the feet of her childhood. They laid the deep scars. They, her brothers, uncles, and neighbors, they who were given the privilege to safeguard her, they who failed. 6 to 13, marbles, tree climbing, spin topping, car building, sling making, and bush food. 6 to 13, cut toes, broken bones, scratched knees, produced no tears. No, I'm sorry. Cut toes, broken bones, scratched knees, pain produced no tears. 6 to 13, molesting, raping, and violating, pain produced no tears. They said to become one of us, you could not cry whenever you got hurt. She thought they meant all hurt, even secret hurt. She was empowered by the one who held power over her life. She played him to fight him. She did not dream of a household where he held power. This poem was written by Vuyiwa Mkhize, a former student at the university here. And she pins my story in such a beautiful way, in a way that during the ages of 6 to 16, due to the fact that I was a child that moved from home to home and was not in a stable environment, and also being a foster child or a welfare child, and there was literally no stability. But I share the story that in every home that I was located or allocated to, somebody felt the need to either molest or to abuse or to violate my rights as a child. So this was from 6 to 13. The way that I dealt with my pain and trauma was I decided that if I were to become like him, which meant I played tops with him, I played him in the sense of him being the masculine figure. I played with boys only. I refused to play with girls from the age of 5 years old, 5 or 6, coming into my 6th year, where I refused to play with girls at all. I wanted to play with boys because in my child's mind, I knew that if I was a boy, if I looked like a boy, if I dressed like a boy, if I behaved like a boy, then perhaps I wouldn't be so attractive to this masculine figure that would violate me over and over and over again. Most of my caregivers really felt that there was something sort of wrong with me because they always said I was very tomboyish. I was one that was always not feminine in that way, or playing dollhouse or playing with other girls. I refused to, because what they had taught me was to be a man, or if you want to be amongst the boys, you don't cry. So then that means I buried my pain from the age of 6. I buried the pain within me, but I did cry eternally. I cried internally in the sense that, why are these things happening to me? Is it normal to be treated like this? Is it normal to be violated in a way like this? And what does that mean? And why is it that every time I come into a new space, every time I come into a new home, somebody has to find the need, or somebody has to be attracted to me in that way? Barely breasts and barely thighs that would attract a man. Therefore, one of my best friends, who is my cousin, who used to always say that if you want to be with us and if you want to play with us, you cannot cry. So I had a lot of scratched knees. I had a lot of cut toes and cut by the grass, and a lot of wounds. And I would only feel those wounds when I'm alone in the space where I have to bath myself, and the water would go deep into those wounds and the soap would burn those wounds. And I had to hold back those tears because it was my cousin who said that if you want to be with us, you cannot cry. So I held all of this within me until the day came that I spoke about my sexual abuse. I was able to open up and share and be vulnerable in that space, to share with people that are dealing or people that are trying to combat the issue of gender-based violence, people that are trying to ask survivors to stand up. And I have noticed that even in the work that I do as a social activist, what I've come to see is that we are continuously spoken over. We do not have voices. Even in the theological discourse, we found that we are constantly spoken for. Therefore, a lot of women or a lot of men that have experienced sexual trauma are not being liberated. And hence, I am advocating this and championing this cause to start speaking about it. Because the minute I shared my story, the minute I opened up and shared my story and told my story to society, this was it came to a shock to them. And two, it was, but wait a minute, this is one of our activists and none of us knew that this is what had happened to her. She does not look like one that has been sexually abused. And then I always ask the question, what does one have to look like? Because in so many ways, women that experience domestic violence have to cover up with makeup, or they have to cover up with eyeglasses or scarves or hats or something. Then that is how the society can identify that that person has been abused or that person has been hurt. But what about the sexual abuse, which is intimate, which is usually done in the dark, which is usually done when nobody can see, which is usually done in a space or in a time where you are forced to be silenced, you are forced to be imprisoned, that your voice is taken away from you, because the only way for you to be liberated is when you open up and you tell someone that this is what has happened to me, in the hopes that they would believe you, or someone that would come to your rescue and take you for immediate help, either to a police station or to take you to a rape crisis center or to take you to a center where you can be assisted immediately. So what had happened was that whenever somebody or a child has been molested or a child has been sexually abused, what happens to our brain, to my brain, was that my brain had literally been on a stroke. The part of my brain, the frontal lobe cortex that deals with my reasoning, that deals with my rationality, that deals with my emotions, was on strike. Therefore, I wasn't able to utter to anyone what had happened to me. And the day that had happened, it took 30 years of work, 30 years of working on myself in different forms, in different ways. It had to be because of the type of work that I'm doing, and also the work that I'm passionate about in my studies. I've also found that I had, through my theological studies, I was able to assist myself, and I had become my own guinea pig, where I would be my own case study and work through my emotions, work through my body, assist my brain to rewire my brain, that I had the ability to open up my mouth and to speak and to share about my pain, and that I had the ability to start doing the inner work. And because I was not raised by both my parents, I had to get to a point where I had to raise the 6-year-old, where I had to defend the 13-year-old, where I had to get to a space where, when I came out of reformatory in 1993, where I had to say to the 18-year-old that it's okay to be independent, that it's okay through your life's journey, all the mistakes that you made and that you have learned through trial and error, and that is fine. So I had to become my own mother. I had to become my own advocate. I had to become my own protector. I had to become someone that spoke up for myself whenever I felt violated, whenever I felt abused in our society by men. So we wrote 2 poems. She wrote one about my sexual experience, and she wrote one about who I am today. And this is what I would also like to share with you. And I also shared with them my somatic experience, was when I had come full circle with when my body, my mind, and my soul had come into an alignment. And there was a somatic experience. And when I share that experience, my body began to sweat. My hands were sweating. My entire body was sweating. The sweat was dripping down my body, down past my breast, under my arms, down my thighs. And sharing that for the first time, I had asked myself as I'm talking, and I'm like, but The pain is not there anymore. I'm not experiencing the trauma anymore, but what is going on with my body? And in the hopes that the audience could not notice that, wait a minute, this woman is really, she really is, something is happening to her. She's either urinating on herself or something to that effect. But thank God no one even noticed that. So I came back and I spoke to a psychologist, and I asked the psychologist, what does it mean? Because as I'm sharing my story, my body was taking its own reaction. And this was what she explained to me, that I had a somatic experience where a lot of people that go through trauma don't necessarily reach. And that is full circle healing. And I'm so grateful for that. And this is where Vuyo penned in closing, where she penned my experience as well in a beautiful poem. And it's titled Weeping Body. Weeping body, like a weeping body, willow hanging over the river of external memories, remembering those violent tremors marked by the other in an attempt to steal your gold. Weeping body, bruised and broken, bearing burdens of unseen horrors and daily torment. Weeping body, you're clothed in heavy robes of fear, sacrificing the naked freedom at the altars of your nightmares. Weeping body, he is here, also bruised and broken, knowing your very hurt as it matches his own. When you thought your brokenness was your tomb, his brokenness was your healing. Weeping body, though his tears, through his tears, you have found your truth in an advocate that the world would step on. Weeping body, he bought you new garments and perfume to adorn yourself with exotic spices of new hope in skills, of quiet healing and jewels of freedom. Weeping body, you look beautiful in your new outfit, an outfit seamed with love, fitting you perfectly, now realizing your greatness. Thank you.
Wow. Belinda, I don't have the words. Every time I see you, you have layers and layers and layers and layers to you that have just been added on. I see too that you have been honored for your work in improving sexual health outcomes for BAME communities. What does BAM communities mean?
Black minority ethnicity.
Okay. And you've also been nominated 2 years running for the Global Impact N Oscars, which is presented at the annual N Oscars in the UK, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
And so what are the N Oscars?
The Oscars is basically a red carpet event where they celebrate people that work towards the betterment of society. So I was nominated for the Global Impact Award, which means the work that I'm doing transcends borders. So out of, yes, it transcends South African borders. So out of the sexual experience that I vocalized, they had used it for to assist churches for the first time, gender-based violence manual, where they took my story as I shared it and put it in the manual, and that has now been distributed to 8 countries around the borders of South Africa.
That is amazing.
Yes.
Absolutely amazing. Now, unfortunately, the violation of young girls continues.
Yes.
This is a pandemic, like you said, that needs to change and change tomorrow.
Yes, that's true.
Experience. What is the solution to this problem?
You know, that is a question that I grapple with myself, Gertrude. First, I look at myself and I look at those, or the first person that illegally introduced me to sexual activities, I would now name or term him as a pedophile, because he was 21, 22, I was 5. So whenever I got into different homes, it was very rarely that I was abused by my own age mates. My own age mates were more playful and nobody even thought of doing it. It was basically the older folk. The oldest one was 57 years old. So I must have been around about 9 going to 10. So I asked myself the question, like really, what is the cause, and why would they want to do that, or why do you? I'm not saying that maybe different age grades are better. I'm not saying a 20-year-old violated and raped is better than a 5-year-old or than a 2-month-old baby. But for some odd reason, the more I'm doing research, they sort of more and more findings are coming up that men have psychological issues. Men that literally rape kids under 12, like under 12. There's some sort of psychological stuff that's happening within that person, and it's usually people that are family and not so much so strangers. So it has to do with the psychology of a human being, of a male figure that would do that to an infant or to do that to a child without even realizing why would you want to mess up someone's life to that extent. So, and the first person that did that to me was literally my biological uncle. So someone that was supposed to have been a protector, and not even an uncle's friend or someone else, but this was someone that was at home most of the time when his brother was gone to the Navy. So someone that was supposed to have just been the protector or just to look out for me during the hours before my caregivers got back from work. So when I look back and try to ask myself what was going on in his mind, what happened to them, or what happened to him, and one answer that person is seriously has some sort of psychological issues, or also definitely is a pedophile in sheepskin. And we went out into communities where we have a program called Redemptive Masculinities. And we asked the men, like mature men, the 50 years old and younger. The youngest was in the room was about 25 years old. And we asked them, why do men rape? And I was almost nauseated at the response that we're still getting today in our community, as fresh as last week, where the reasons for why they're assuming or why they think we're not doing that. They feel, one, it's culture. Culture influences rape. They feel religion influences rape. The Bible says that women are man's property. They feel that women are confusing. Woman's no literally means a yes. They came up with so many excuses or reasons as to why that happens. And to my bewilderment, as I was writing down their points on the flip chart, I think I had to ask one of my colleagues to just give me a space to just breathe, because the room just became claustrophobic, where 35 men in a room, and each of them are giving explanations as to why they would go and violate a woman. That for me was I just asked, can I just have a break? I just needed a break, because it did something to my inner beings. And I'm sure that they weren't aware that there's a victim or a survivor standing, or a survivor, I would say, that are standing in front of them, or in their presence, for them to be so honest in their reasons as to why they do it. And one of their other responses were, men are just lustful. We're just lustful and selfish. And that's why we violate women. So we literally starting to figure out where, how, and why. And then just on Saturday, I had a dialogue, and we termed it, gendercide. as to why is there so much of femicide happening in South Africa? Why do the young students at the university think that men are killing the woman, and why now there's a high stats of men committing suicide? Why are they? What is happening in South Africa? What do they think is going on? And it was I was dumbfounded at how the babies had been. These third-year students and fourth-year students are giving feedback as to why they think this is happening, and they feel that there's such a disjuncture in terms of the intergenerational stuff. They feel that now that we've become a global community, we've lost a lot of our boundaries. We've lost who we are. We're becoming more Eurocentric and adapting cultures that doesn't belong to Africa. There is so much of which they are looking at right now and what they are seeing happening in their world today. And even they themselves are wounded and broken. And also this cross-gender where you have a whole lot of female single parents. The majority are female that are heading homes. And because they're so frustrated, they themselves now are training men to become more and more violent. So we have this melting pot of the woman. We had a workshop with the woman as well, and the women have this revengeful hatred towards what the men are doing. And then the men, on the other hand, are so overt in terms of why things are happening, why they're raping. The woman's dress code, women belong to them, women are property. Religion and culture influences that. And when we disrespect them in that way, then they just take what definitely belongs to them, or what they should have, without realizing that they're violating us. And then we hear the children, the younger adults who are broken and feel that it's a brokenness that is just continuing because the parents are broken, and now they're just passing it on to them, and they also adapting this brokenness in terms of gender-based violence. So it's work that we are doing on the ground. Yes, very vicious
cycle. Jerry, I can see you want to jump in here with some comments.
It's just, I mean, I come from a completely different society, and I had not even thought about the fact that they think it's religion. It's acceptable because of the Bible, and that just kind of blows my mind, because it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that there's so little accountability. There's no remorse. It's like, well, this is what we're supposed to be doing. That is, I don't know how you sat through even 3 of those people saying the things they did. You are a very strong woman. You're amazing.
It probably, I wouldn't say it brought a sense of closure, but it in some way, I just wanted to know where and why, and just see maybe if those answers could fit somewhere in my story, if it could just make some sort of sense in my story.
Yeah.
But I literally found that shying away and backing down from this masculine sphere and tension is really not going to help. But I think the work that we're doing in trying to have, I'm not going to say a compromise, but at least we have some sort of middle ground, that we would come back to them and start running more workshops with them. Hence, I am studying theology, and my theology research is not necessarily for pastoral work. It's basically for social. It's for social work. It's literally going into communities and to promote social change, and to go out into these areas, especially where the Bible is incorrectly interpreted, or they have limited biblical literacy in terms of the text, because they cited text where texts are speaking about women being a property. So it's to that okay, if now it's as gruesome as it was, yes, I had to take a breath. I had to literally sleep on it in order to wake up in a different energy, and after meditation, and to center myself and to say that this is what we have. and now we have to go back and work in that same masculine space and see if we can't get them to have a different mindset, because it's people that one are congregants, and also it's people that are the ones that are walking around our communities, which means even our children are not so safe if they feel that if this is what they are saying. So if we can work with 35 men from community through community to community, then certainly they surely will definitely be we're hoping, I think that's a hope, that there will definitely be some sort of transformation, because they have asked us to come back to do more work with them.
Good. That's
Well,
good.
you're saying that all these men are being brought up by women. As women,
Yes.
as mothers, what is our role in
Oh,
helping change this vicious cycle?
that was my next question. So, when my boys were growing up, I spoke very frankly with them about how to respect a woman. But
Yes.
I can say that it's easier for me to teach my children that because I've been respected and they see that example. But I still wanted to tell them directly. In your case, my question is, at what point did it stop? Did you finally get it to stop? And how did it affect your femininity?
It stopped when I was placed in an institution, in a place of safety, the government institution, because you have to reach a specific age before they send you to a place of safety. So, and then before you go on to reformatory and you are released when you're 18 years old. So in the place of safety, it was girls and boys, but we were separated. We would only see each other when we're going to school in the morning, and we see each other for programs, and we see each other dinner on dinner table, and that's it. But we are separate. And then when I went to reformatory for 2.5 years, while there was females only, there was no males. So what gave me a sense of as if the running, personally, the bleeding and the woundedness, being in a very structured militant environment, as though some people still look back, and some people are still, and some girls, I would say, who are now women, some women are still traumatized by their experience of being in social welfare in those institutions. But I found it as my place of refuge, that at least nobody will interfere with me. So I will say as early as 1989 was when the healing and the stop running and the wondering and always being on edge and who's going to come into my room or who's going to interfere with me after school. My caregiver, she used to always, she thought I was too tomboyish, and she used to beat the life out of me just for playing with boys. But and my school reports as a child, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, my school reports, whenever the teacher would always write, Belinda's very playful. So which means I'm either fidgetive, or I'm interfering with other children, or I can't sit still, or something to that effect. But what what my caregiver didn't realize was that I was trying to deal with what was happening with me based on what I had experienced as a child.
And where were you, Belinda, where were your parents when all of this was happening, your mother and your father?
My father wasn't, what name do we give my dad? Everywhere he lays his hat, he leaves a child and goes. He was a man that he only had sufficient money for fueling his car. That's it. So he was someone that was never around, someone that was never reliable, someone that was never present. So, and when I started doing more, and as I'm writing my book, complete, in fact, it's 95% complete, where I had to go back and reunite with my cousin after 40 years and ask him to please help me understand my genealogy. Who was who, and where's my dad, and and where was my father, and why was I was with you to a specific age, and then what happened, and he started giving all the explanations to. But my dad, number one, was very irresponsible, unreliable. He has children all over Durban and in Johannesburg. And my mom, I only reunited with my mom when I saw her when I was 9 years old, where my caregiver had introduced her to me for the first time, and she told me, "I'm not your mom." And I saw my mom when I was 9, and I didn't see her again after that until I was about 13. And I saw her at court where she had to sign me over. She had to sign for me to go to reformatory, and I didn't see her again until I was 22 years old. So we have a very, very fragmented relationship. You know, yeah.
Hey,
But
we
they
wonder-
were present. They were present in the city, I would say, in Durban. They were, and still are till this day. They both are alive still.
Wow.
It would be interesting to have known more about your mother's backstory. It probably was a similar story. We'll never know, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
times when
That's true, Gertrude. But then my mom, when my mom sees me, I'm the spitting image of my dad. I'm the photocopy of my dad. So my mother, my mother equates the pain of my dad when she sees me walk through the door. And I think my mom never told, her family knew that she had me and couldn't keep me because I was so fair. And apartheid time was really terrible, where she couldn't keep me and couldn't find the man, or couldn't be with the man that impregnated her. And she couldn't take me home to my family. So she just let me be, or handed me over to welfare, or handed me over to people, to a color community where she felt that I would fit in better. And my mom just isolated, I think blocked my existence out of her mind through pain, which I would say. Till this day, she accepts me conditionally. And I say that because even when I graduated my first degree, my mom, it dignified my mother, but my mom forgot the person in the cloak. So I still say that if I did not graduate, the struggle was my mom's struggle, with the apartheid and the Bantu education and not having accessibility to all the resources of the country. So it was my mom's dream, and not a personal struggle that I was dealing with politically, where I was so oblivious and really just so blinded to what was happening in my surroundings, and trying to focus on all that had happened to me and try to be in a space where I can just be stable. So what was happening around me politically didn't necessarily affect me. And I was surprised that I could see why a whole lot of Black people were happy that they could now access the universities. And for me, it really wasn't a big deal. So my mom and I, or the way my mom has accepted me, comes with that condition. So it's still, she's still dealing with that shame on her own side, which I fully I understand. I don't hate her for it though. I can understand why, but then it's something that I had to now find my own space in society and find my own sense of being, and also do all the healing work that has brought me to a place where I can fully say and honestly say that I really can understand the way she feels, and that's why our relationship is so fragmented.
Well, it's amazing where you've come, and the work you're doing, going back to the communities, and
yes,
I think that's the best way to do it, is share help those that are going through it now. And I think that's
exactly
very healing to be able to turn around and maybe if she gets one child out of that life, you've made it. You've accomplished a great thing. That's a whole life that young person is. And people don't realize that it affects the child's whole life when they're abused. So
exactly.
I love what you're doing. I just really
exactly. Oh, thank you. It wasn't until I went back to reformatory last month to Cape Town, and my cousin took me there, and he was very surprised that I didn't break down, I didn't cry, I didn't. He thought maybe I'd be so nervous of going back to reformatory, the place that was so secluded from society and all locked up in prison, an isolated kind of space, a little Robben Island in Cape Town. And I spoke to the principal to ask what has become of the school, and reformatories ended in 1993. So probably I was one of the last exiting students from reformatory, female student or non-white female student. And I tried to reach out to my friends that I was in reformatory with, just to see where they're at in their life and how have they succeeded in their life. And I think everybody just fell into the working class. And none of the women were able to use that reformatory experience to even better their life. They had to work for the working class. And that was extremely, it was almost a dagger through my heart, just to see that so many women coming out of reformatory that were non-white, coming out of reformatory and really didn't make it. And the principal informed me that that if I were to go to, if I were to continue my academics and make it to a PhD, that I would be the first non-white female from reformatory that has become a doctor. And that will be some sort of go down in the chronicles of our apartheid history. That out of something like that, there's one. And I think that for me, I said, I don't think I'm ready for that kind of iconic status just as yet, but it just made a sense of purpose. So I sort of began to put all the pieces together and realize that because there was a time where I did have an imposter syndrome through my undergraduate and also my postgraduate in honors, and I was, what is the fuss? What am I doing here? It really just didn't even feel like as if I'm supposed to be here. This is not my battle. I'm not so woo-ah about degrees and things like that. And I understand that it's my mom's battle for me to get a degree because she couldn't get one or she couldn't further education. It's the struggle of my mom, it's not mine. I have my own to deal with. And after experiencing that meeting with the principal of the reformatory, it was only then that I can say the purpose for life has now become full circle. So all these bits and pieces of my story have to come together to make a beautiful quote. Because had it not been what it was, I really wouldn't have understood the purpose of even being an academic and doing the work that I'm doing. And now it does make sense to speak up for a missing nation within our nation, and most of all, for women that have not made it further to an acceptable or an legible matric in our society.
So one last question for you, Belinda. What is the name of your book that's coming out? That you haven't, I know you haven't finished it yet, but have you picked a title?
It's called, it's titled Liberation in Irrelevant Spaces.
Okay. That's
nice.
Thing.
Yes.
We look forward to it coming out. Please keep us informed so we can support you and share it with our community. But thank you for telling what was a painful beginning of your life and turning it into something positive. The story is very, very inspiring. It's beautiful to see you in action, making a difference in the world in some way.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Wonderful. Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you, Belinda. You're welcome to stay with us. I know it must be almost midnight there.
It's 10 to 1. I'll stay until the finish. It's fine. I enjoy listening to all the other stories and our chat and comment, and it's some of those just wow. So I'll definitely stay on until the end.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure. Okay, so our next speaker is Brenda Rogers. Brenda is based here in Australia, and I had an interesting conversation with her. She is a coach. She's based in Sydney, Australia. And her focus, she calls herself a natural menopause expert and an educator for women in midlife. She says, I help women transform from a hot, sweaty mess into a cool, calm, and confident so they can embrace the next and best phases of their lives. So it was wonderful, Brenda, to interview you and to learn from you a few things that I still needed to know about menopause as well. Here we go.
I'm based in Sydney. Brenda Rogers is my name, and I'm 55, just last week. So well into my 50s, and I'm loving it. And
happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. And what was your other
Where
question?
does your story begin, Brenda? You are a menopause expert. How did that happen?
Oh, look, I've been a naturopath for 30 years. And so, you know, I've been passionate about natural medicine and earth medicine and paid a lot of attention to keeping myself healthy. But wasn't really prepared for menopause. I thought it was just a health journey.
Right.
And menopause is much more than a health journey. It's a psychological and spiritual journey as well. And I wasn't prepared for that. So as Dr. Christiane Northrup mentions, she says that menopause is a wake-up call.
Yes.
And it was for me. I wasn't really living my best life. So I got a little bit nudged towards that. I was working in corporate. I was kind of okay, happy, but not really fulfilled. And so I, you know, through a series of unfortunate circumstances, which were a little bit, you know, a bit of a dark time in my life, I eventually came to the conclusion that now was the time to muster up the courage to start my own business and to practice my medicine how I'd always wanted to practice it, to share it with the world. And what's unfolded from that has been phenomenal, because I chose menopause to be my specialty and my niche. And I didn't realize that I would learn so much about what menopause really is.
Yes.
And so I've been on this mission. You know, I've got these piles of books that I'm reading, because, you know, when you decide to become an expert about something, you magnetize, people send you stuff, you know, you see it. It's like, I see menopause everywhere. If somebody's talking about it, a book. And so I'm on this wonderful journey of understanding not just the personal story, but the HerStory story. There's a feminist perspective on menopause. There's a history from pre-patriarchal cultures. We can learn from the Native American Indians how their wise women came about. So don't get me started, Gertrude. Where do we begin? I'm in love with this journey, and ultimately empowering the inner leader in all of the women that in my tribe to find their purpose, because I believe their purpose needs to be delivered so that we can bring balance and harmony to the world, which I don't think we currently have at all.
A lot of us are totally unprepared for the change. We know it's coming. We read up a few things. Take me through a step-by-step process. If there was a young woman who's coming to you right now, early 40s, going on 45, is wanting to know how she can be prepared, what to expect, what advice would you give her?
Sleep.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there's stages. There's the perimenopause or premenopause stage, maybe the beginnings in the early 40s, and then it gets more intense in the late 40s. And then it changes once the periods end, because that's a new stage again, and that moves us into postmenopause. And each stage requires different things. So if you're in your early 40s and you're looking to prepare, then it might be cleaning up your life so that you don't have a lot of things stealing your energy, unnecessary things stealing your energy. It might be cleaning up your relationships, maybe getting if you have the time, because often we have so many things on our plate, but it might be nourishing yourself better so that when you hit menopause, which is a really huge endocrine challenge, that your whole endocrine or hormonal system is operating well. So that's the pituitary, the adrenals, of course, the ovaries, the places where our blood sugar hormones come from, our thyroid, and that whole system needs us to be managing our stress very well. So I'm a big fan of herbal teas that support and nourish and tone the body. I'm a big fan of eating the right foods for your adrenals. So that would be some good quality cholesterol in the diet, like egg yolks, and a judicious amount of cream, and fish and good quality meat and that kind of thing. So I think in your early 40s and mid 40s, it's really about physical health, so that you're resilient and prepared for the psychological journey that's about to unfold.
Wow. You talk about food. I have come to realize that food is medicine. I have come to really be more calculated about what I put in my mouth and being aware of the impact that has on my body. Now, a lot of times we eat very unconsciously. I remember reading a book where it said, whenever you're feeling hungry, grab a glass of water first. Maybe you're just thirsty.
Yes.
Just being more aware. So let's have a little bit of a countdown on the type of foods. You've mentioned a few that one needs to be aware of avoiding when you're going through menopause.
Yes. Okay. Well, there's the ones that we already know. That's sugar.
Yes.
Processed sugar. I think that if you understand nutrition, you realize that all of the carbohydrate foods break down into glucose ultimately. And so once you've eliminated processed sugar, and a lot of women are doing really well with that, or minimized it, or maybe they've replaced it with a bit of honey or maple syrup. And if you're still struggling with weight or sugar cravings or PMS or other things, then it may be that too much potato or wheat or all of those starchy carbs, rice, for example, there might be too much for your body for that as well, because the brain rewires at midlife and menopause. As you've spoken to me about that before, about your memory, that's the brain rewiring, and sleeplessness and moods comes back to brain health. And brain health is super important during menopause, as it is always really. But it does rewire, and the latest information that I've received is that instead of being fed with glucose, the brain starts to be fed with ketones. And so I think that one of the myths is that we avoid fat, especially if we're dealing with, struggling with our weight. But I found that to actually be counterproductive. So I actually eat a lot of fat. I mean, I'm small and a little bit pudgy around the middle, so I'm not stick thin, and I'm not perfect by any means. And if I let myself, I can go, I need to do something about my belly. But when I get busy focusing on my life's mission, that kind of goes out the window, and I like that. But most women don't realize how much fat they can actually eat if they minimize the carbohydrates. So I'm a big fan of cream. I love cream. I make my own ice cream, which I haven't done for a while because it's been winter, but I love to make, and you could do it with coconut cream as well, coconut cream recipes.
Yes.
Butter and ghee are a big part. Everything is fried. I can fry fish in butter or ghee if it's a heavier meal. But I fry my, if I'm frying up some beef for a slow cooker meal, for example, I might fry it in beef tallow, or traditionally our grandmothers made pastry out of pork fat.
Yes.
So these things have gone out the window because of our worrying about cholesterol. But there's so much research now to show that that's actually not correct. And my own experience of reintroducing these things into my diet has been my appetite is way more regulated. I can go till 2:00 and I'm not hungry. And
that is amazing. Wow. Okay, so we're going to take a little commercial break. And when we come back, I want us to talk about sleeplessness. And I would love us to touch on the mood swings, because that is another big issue that women have. Now, our little commercial is me advertising to you ladies out there. If you have a story that you feel is worth sharing, the HerStory Circle is looking for 1 million stories. We are recruiting for speakers for October, November, and December. Please go onto our website and register to speak. Share your story. Don't take your story to your grave. Welcome back, everybody.
What a beautiful ad.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So welcome back, everybody. Today we have a menopause expert, Brenda Rogers, coming to us all the way from Sydney. And we're talking about all of the issues that women experience when they go through the change. Brenda, I need you to help us with ideas on how women can deal with the lack of sleep. I have been struggling with that. Unless I go for a walk or do some rigorous exercises or try and meditate, sleep is a big, big challenge. Why is it important for us to sleep? And what should women do to be able to cope with sleeplessness during menopause?
Well, first of all, I just want to qualify that I'm a natural menopause expert, and that I'm offering the earth medicine, kitchen medicine, plant medicine version of the answer to that question. And some women with really serious conditions may need to go and see their health, a health professional or a general practitioner or a specialist for qualified information as well. But one of the things I've learned a lot about insomnia for the midlife women, because it's different to when you're pregnant or have a baby. It's a different kind of insomnia to that, right? And the having a good healthy night's sleep, and I'm about to do a challenge actually, so it's really top of mind. And having a good night's sleep starts with with the morning. So it starts when you wake up, and there are things you can do first thing in the morning that set you up well for the rest of the day. And one of the things is going for a walk, because especially going outside, because there's an impact of light in the eyes that affects brain biochemistry. And so I like to encourage women to start, if they haven't already, a morning ritual that includes some meditation and some exercise. But beyond that, there's a few things. sleeplessness is more difficult because our progesterone is decreasing, and progesterone is part of the brain chemistry that relates to some of the neurotransmitters that are involved in mood and sleeping. And so that much we can't do much about. And I like to reframe insomnia as something that can be quite beneficial as well. So if you're waking up in the middle of the night and your energy is fine during the day, then don't worry, because one of the things that I've noticed personally is that a lot of wisdom gets downloaded for me in the middle of the night. It might be 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. If I just quiet down and relax, I can have a little conversation with my source and answer a lot of questions that I'm dealing with at the time. However, if you're not energized throughout the day, then that can be difficult. And that requires more nourishment, food-wise, perhaps during the day. It might mean managing your cortisol level so you're not so busy. There's more breaks in your busyness. And certainly, if you are getting that 3 a.m. wake up, it can often mean that your cortisol is too high and that there's too much what we call sympathetic nervous system activation. There's too much yang and not enough yin in your day. And even though that can be really hard, especially for women who are ambitious or achievement oriented or have a lot of responsibilities, you can't cheat nature. You can't cheat the body. It might mean you have to go to bed at 9:30, or you have to take a half an hour lunch break and read your book for a while, because otherwise you don't sleep. So it's very personal.
That's what I found. When I talk to other women, the experience is so different. There's no one cookie cutter solution to the stuff that we're going through. It's very individual and very personal. Thank you for that. So let's talk a little bit about the mood swings and how to deal with them. The emotions that you feel are so intense when you're going through menopause. I find myself sometimes just snapping at the smallest of things, things that I would normally not take too seriously or ignore become a big issue. How does one deal with the mood swings during menopause?
Well, the first thing I like to do is to put a positive spin on emotional health and emotional challenges, and that it's usually our wisdom trying to speak to us. So if you're short-tempered and snappy, maybe that's a healthy thing. Maybe that's telling you something. Maybe you are giving too much and there's not enough reflection time or yin time. And similarly with anxiety, maybe there is too much on your plate right now and the overwhelm is real, and that the medicine is to listen to that and make some changes. Because one thing we know about the change in midlife or menopause is you can't keep doing what you were doing when you were 45 or 40 or 35. You're not meant to. Having said that, though, there are a lot of things in the world for women to be angry about. There's a lot of injustice, and I think that we become more sensitive to injustices, particularly in the 50s. Less so at 45, it's different again, but certainly in your 50s, we start to view injustices a little bit different. And I often think the hot flush is often this little injustice adrenaline hit. And we need to pay attention to that too, because not so much with you, Gertrude, because you're already doing a lot, in fulfilling your purpose and mission in the world. But for me, for example, I felt like I had all of this. I was complaining a lot about what was going on in the world, but I wasn't doing anything about it. And yet it broke my heart. So my point really is, aside from I don't want to diminish the impact that anxiety and anger can have on a woman's life, and then, you know, the necessity to do the right thing to deal with that. But I also want to put a positive spin on mental health challenges, that they aren't always pathology.
That is interesting and very, very true. You're right. At a certain age in life, you become much more heightened and more aware of what's going on in the world. You feel you've got to do something about it. I know I do. I can't just sit back and watch anymore. So that is a very, very real thing at this stage in our lives. Now, is there anything I should have asked you that I didn't that can help women going through menopause right now?
Oh gosh, there's so many things that I love to share. I like you, Gertrude, I'm building a tribe, and, you know, I think there's overlaps of all the women who want to, you know, create this fulfilled life at this age, who feel like there's more and they want to do more. If each of us builds a tribe and our tribes overlap, then we'll make a difference. And my tribe is natural medicine. It's earth medicine inspired life coaching. And I am on Facebook with my group, which is the Menopause Lounge. So if you feel inspired and called, come and join me there. My website is on the page. Obviously, it's never up to date enough, as our websites never are, but you can see me there. And I'm open to a conversation. I'm open to a collaboration, and I'm open to, you know, women's connection and the feminine. So I think that it's time for women to rise.
And you are so right. This is our time. This is the time for us to get together, support each other, and collaborate. And I thank you so much for coming online today. For those of you who want to get hold of Brenda, if you're going through the change, if you know somebody who is struggling, her website is being displayed at the bottom of the screen, qwomen.com.au. Brenda, thank you again so much for this amazing interview. I'm looking forward to seeing what else we're going to be doing with each other going forwards. And thank you to everybody who's tuned in on Facebook, on YouTube. Have a fantastic day wherever you are in the world. And please step up and come and share your story at the HerStory Online Summit. Thank you, Brenda. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye for now, everybody. Okay, that was the beautiful Brenda sharing her nuggets of wisdom around menopause.
Yes.
Very, very, very important subject indeed.
Yes, it is. I think even after you finish going through menopause, her ideas are wonderful, especially because our whole body does change, and we never are the younger woman that we were. But we can still, all of her ideas about nutrition and that, I totally think that it's a great idea. And then one of the things she didn't mention that I have come to know just of recent is I have adopted her higher fat diet.
Oh, yes.
And I've noticed my skin's not as bad. You know, I'm an Irish woman, and we are known to have a lot of wrinkles, and I totally embrace my wrinkles. I earned every single one of them. But sometimes I would like them to be a little bit less prominent. My skin's not as dry, because it's usually pretty dry. It's
Right.
not as itchy. And I think that has to do with adding more fat into my diet.
And also understanding that there's good fats that we can
Yes.
still consume. You're better off cutting back on the carbs
Right.
and having fatty meats. And
Right.
yeah, we had a few comments that came in while Belinda was speaking. I just want to acknowledge Dorothy saying thank you so much to Belinda, and Belinda saying thank you so much for listening. And while Brenda was speaking, I can see Belinda is still with us, saying how powerful this message is. She totally agreed with everything Brenda said, and she's almost 50, so she's beginning to realize all of the challenges that some of us have already surpassed, and we've crossed over to the other side, but we still have to be very aware of the issues that affect us before menopause and after.
Especially
So Brenda,
I can't say the word, like the thyroid and all those things, all our inner body. We have to be aware of those things.
The hormonal changes are huge.
Yes.
They're very, very big, but there's natural ways that you can manage and handle everything.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully for me, I'm now able to sleep. So I was waking up with hot flushes. That phase is gone. And life is starting to feel a little bit normal, almost.
I wish we had her on live, because I would like to have asked her. And I don't have a problem. Once I fall asleep, I do not have a problem with waking up in the night.
You're lucky.
But falling asleep, I can't seem to shut my brain down. I can't seem to, that's the challenge I'm having, is actually falling asleep.
Falling asleep. Well, I've started listening to the Silva method. Have you ever heard of Jose Silva?
Mm-mm. No.
I'll send you a link to his video. He has a method where, as he's speaking, there is a beat. It's called a beat. It's like a tapping sound.
Mm-hmm.
And it puts you into that alpha state really quickly.
Oh.
I can't even listen to the whole thing. I force myself to watch it because it's on YouTube from beginning to end, so I can see what he actually says in this meditation. But I go to sleep within 5 minutes, and he's got a very monotonous voice.
Yeah, that helps.
So he puts you to sleep just with the sound of his voice, but the tapping sound makes it even worse. I'll send you the video. It's powerful stuff.
Okay.
Now I'm able to sleep even without listening to it, which is great. But I love sharing Jose Silva with people. He has a process called the Silva method, and it is very, very, very impactful. So I'll send that to you.
Okay.
So we had a speaker who was supposed to come in live. I have just sent her a message on Facebook. So we're going to play another video while we're waiting for Pat to come. I'm not sure if her technology is challenging her. She did mention she was having a few problems with her computer yesterday. But we will go on to the next speaker while we're waiting. The next speaker is Caroline Maposa, also from South Africa and also introduced to the movement by Vidashni. So thank you, Caroline.
Good day, everyone. Good day, every lady on the platform. I love you, lady. A woman is a hard worker. Always women are the dockers of today. We work like dockers. My name is Caroline Maposa. I'm lived in Loli Extension 2, south of Joburg. I'm aged 50 years old. I'm a mother of 4, but not only 4 kids, my biological. I'm a foster parent of 13 kids. I started doing foster parent in 2014. The first child came in my foster. She was six weeks old. The mom left the baby with the father, that is the girlfriend and boyfriend. Then she went away. So I started to continue this fostering thing. Now I've got 13 kids in my care. 4 have already completed their court order, and 9 don't have completed court orders. They're on temporary safety place. I keep them until they find their families. Court order may be, say, you can take here for 2 years until they find the family. So it's what I'm doing in my community. Recently, I just found 2 girls, a 10-year-old and a 3-year-old girl. They were staying alone in their shack for 2 months. The mom left them for 2 months. So these 2 girls were staying alone. So I have to remove these 2 girls. In my heart, I had a fear. What? Somebody came and raped these children. In my communities, the rape case rate is too high. Kids are being kidnapped. Kids are being human trafficked. Kids are being sexual abused. So I have to remove those kids into my care. I stayed with them in my house. Even now, today, they are in my hands until we find where the parents is. So also in my community, I run a feeding scheme, which I feed about 50 kids in my community. I don't have, but the little I had to share with somebody. I had to share with those kids. So, and also I'm running a daycare in my community, which accommodate about 40 kids. On those 40 kids, they pay as little as 250 rand school fees. Some people can't manage that 250 school fees. So they have to go out to look for piecework, part-time jobs, to have something on the plate for the night with the family. With my heart of children, I said, okay, you can bring your child to the daycare. I'll take care for your child until she's back from that piecework. The reason I'm doing this, to remove the kids from the street. This is the foundation of the life. The foundation of the life is on the children. So it's what also I'm doing in my community. My journey with Videshni. I met Videshni in another local social development organization in my community where I met her. She introduced me to light workers. Then by way she invited me to the Women's Day. When I was at the Women's Day, I had an opportunity to share, to pitch up what I'm doing. I make peanut butter, homemade peanut butter. It's where I do my proposal of making peanut butter. Then I started to attend my Thursday classes with Videshni, Love and Hope Support Group. So I usually go there Thursday where Videshni teach us to empower ourselves, not to focus on problem, but to focus on future. So she used to teach us all those things when we met. And Videshni made me some donors to donate for these foster children I'm fostering. On my foster children, I had another baby, the amazing one. They call him amazing miracle baby, Sibusiso. Sibusiso was born a premature baby. The mother left him in the hospital a week after she gave birth. She was in incubator, so the mother left the child. Due that Sibusiso have got a big head, hydro, and they've got disability of cleft palate. So she just left the baby. So one social worker called me, we've got the baby at the Baragwanath hospital. I have to run and fetch the baby. When I get to the hospital, it was a small thing, a 1 kg baby. So I have to take that baby into my head. If you see him now, it's amazing. The doctor were declaring that he won't reach even 1 year, but now he is 3 years old. Through the teachings and the love we are given through Auntie Videshni, she taught us a lot, love and kind. So it's now with a cleft palate, and the cleft palate is not yet repaired, but the hydro, they put him PV shunt, and he's working, he's attending a daycare, he's doing well. In 2020, where COVID-19 started, we have to close down our businesses, our ECD, where our little income was coming. Auntie Videshni and light workers were there for us. Every month they give us ShopRite food voucher. We go and get food for the kids in our care. Not in my foster only. The others who are out for the feeding scheme, I have to help those kids also in my care. So we feed, and I'm so happy Auntie Videshni introduced me to many donors. Many people who are coming to me voluntarily. The other one buy us a 48 kg gas bottle. Sometimes in my community, electric is problem. People, they sue the cable. So we go blackout without electricity. So she was there for us. And also introduced me to the Moral family. They bought us a 3-plate stove to help for me to cook for my foster kids in my house, also for the feeding kids in my community. I still remember I was saying the other night, a 9-year-old boy come with a sister knocking at my door. Do we have something for us to eat? We don't have anything. So I have to take my plate, which was dished for me. It was 7 o'clock in the night, to give that boy to eat with his sister. Where's your mom? My mom is, she's drunk. So some, they got the money for this child support grant. They don't use it on the children. They will buy beer, they will go for gambling, and yet kids are suffering. My heart is too close to kids. Also, this last week, I met the other donor introduced to me by Videshni, Lynn Brown. She bought us a big present, a table tennis. So kids, they come into my house, to my yard to play that table tennis. My aim is to remove them from the street at their age, to remove them from the street. And my biggest dream, I want to see myself run a foster cluster home to accommodate all those kids, the one who are vulnerable, disabilities, the one who have been neglected, abandoned. I want them to be under one roof, to have a better education, to have a shelter to sleep, especially in my community, in that informal settlement. It's so painful to see a girl of 10 years never been in school. If you ask the parent, why didn't you take your child to school? I don't have a birth certificate. Why didn't you do the birth certificate for the child? I don't have an identity. I don't have an ID. So those kids, I'll take care for them. So I try by all means, social development, social welfare, to come and help us. And I need the big place for those children. The one I have is my house with 3 bedrooms, dining and kitchen and 1 bathroom, but it occupied about 13 kids. Some, they pick them. When police find a child at night in the street, they just knock at my door and I open to take that child inside to sleep until they find a place to stay the child. So I'm just wanted to thank Auntie Videshni today to put me on the world. There are other women outside, hear my cry, can have that big heart to help these kids. I cater from the age of 0 to 12 years. This is the foundation. When we start a foundation, we need a strong foundation. So it's what I'm doing. Offer a basic need to the children, food parcels to those we can't go, we can't take them into the shelter. For those, we have to visit them twice or once a week to see what are they eating. Oh, this week, Thursday, I had a visit in the community. I called it field work. I witnessed there's a granny who's taking care for the 3 grandchildren. The mother of that children, she took the whole money from the grant support to feed her boyfriend. and the kids are suffering. The granny, she have to take the diapers for the one who's 1 year 6 and put it in the same so that it can dry, and put it again back in the night when they sleep. And the granny is diabetic. So those kids, they need people with heart. If got food parcel, I take and give the granny to cook for them. If I've got diapers, you can. To do the home visit now and then. The other 3, I've already removed them. They're at Orlando Children's Home because I don't have enough space. The 11-year-old was taking care of the 9-year and the 1 year 7-month baby. The 1 year 7-month, when they are hungry, after she done the pee, she took the pee and ate, just because they don't have food. The mother is gone with the boyfriend, with that grant money they get from the government. So this, the older one, the 11 years old, you have to go to praying outside somebody's yard. When he sows food, he's still to feed the mom's children. So I have to arrange. They're at Orlando Children's Home right now. So I'm just thanking you ladies who are listening to my story. And I want to thank this beautiful lady, Videshni. Really, she made me proud to meet people in the world who are willing to hear our stories here in South Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing. That was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And I love your dream. I love your dream, and it will come true. It will come true. Oh, it breaks my heart also to hear how these kids are suffering. It's really very, very, very heartbreaking. But you are an angel. You're an absolute angel.
I was very touched by your story. I'm in California in the United States, and just across the border in Mexico, we have a family that we support, and they rescue children off the streets who live with their moms while they do drugs. And so I know firsthand how hard it is, what you're doing and what your dream is. And my prayers will be with you that those dreams will come true, because those children just how blessed they are to have you in their lives. I am honored to have you share your story with us today. And thank you so much for what you do for the children, because it makes a difference. We have one little girl who, like you said, she was 10 years old when we got her, and she had never been to school. And she this year graduated from high school and has gone to college. And so you will see those children grow, and you'll be a part of their lives, and you'll be in them.
Nobody profiles, and sometimes I wonder, why did I go to the magistrate's court? I didn't even succeed in becoming a magistrate. I just went through the training, and it was my dream to actually effect some change on that level. But one important thing that hit me was I had to see social services from different perspectives in this country. And one very important perspective was, we all dress up on the first day of work to go and, impress upon the world that we have become this thing now, this social worker, this lawyer, put our makeup on, have our briefcase. What are the young social workers doing in the court halls? They are there with the 10 abandoned babies that they find around the court area alone, comforting children when they are not mothers themselves, having to visit children in hospitals when they suffer abuse and neglect and violence at the hands of their parents. This is what I had to see. And that is why my heart took me into social services straight after my period at the magistrate's court, because I wanted to empower and help social workers and show their story to this country as well, because there is no support apart from the provisional funding they get from the government for their salaries. They're not getting anything else in terms of aid and support, because they have to go out and find the funding. So today, I'm so glad Caroline is here. The one thing Caroline didn't share about her story and what drew me to her is when I learned about Caroline's case, she was at the hospital bed from the day the baby was abandoned when she spoke about our little Sibosiso. And you know, it touched me as well because I have a cleft palate baby myself. But when Caroline saw Sibosiso in hospital, she wasn't even his dedicated foster mother, but she took a taxi to visit that child for over 2 weeks in hospital before he even had surgery. Such is the nature of Caroline. You know, I know personally that social workers approved of Caroline to look after children because she's this fierce fighter for children in the community. And more than these wonderful women on the platform today that have shared their stories, I am so thankful to HerStory for giving us the platform to share the stories of the women in communities that are experiencing the hardship.
Ladies, I do not have the words to thank you for showing up, thank you for doing the work and for loving Africa's children. I'm in New Zealand and I created this platform for you.
Yes.
Caroline, I know it will be difficult sometimes. Just know that you have sisters now.
Yes.
Woo.
That was a
We've
fabulous,
long, Jerry.
fabulous story. She is changing the lives of those children one at a time. And every one of them will have a much better life because of her.
And these are the unsung heroes, the angels that walk this planet. You know, people who dedicate their lives to protecting the most vulnerable in our societies and in our communities.
Yes.
Whew.
Yes.
It's good to revisit these videos, Jerry, because we've interviewed so many women in the last 2 years. It's really good to go back and see how many stories we've curated and to revisit and see the impact of what these videos are doing.
Yeah.
If people are reaching out. I think that's going to be the next phase of our work, is to revisit each and every one of these women, see where they're at, see what support we can lend, and then create a deliberate strategy around each and every one of them. And I think, you know, once this app goes to market and it starts generating the money that we're expecting it to generate, it's going to be quite easy to be able to do the work. I just want to thank Nina. I can see you online, Nina, in Queensland.
I miss her.
You and miss you, Nina. And Dorothy again in the UK, chiming in and listening to today's presentations. So I need to just shake that one off a little bit. I get very, very emotional when I hear about children.
Yeah.
So Pat has just sent a message. There's the beautiful Nina. Nina, do you want to come on and join us for a few minutes? I think we both need a hug from you, a virtual hug. I'll just send her the link quickly. I know, Nina, you're normally prepared at this time of day to get an impromptu invitation. Jump onto our little Q&A session. So if you are available, jump in here and let's see your beautiful face. I know the day that we had you on, Jerry wasn't online with us. So it's good for the two of you to reconnect as well. If you are free, just send me a message. Oh, she said, no, I'm in my dressing gown. Okay, Nina.
Maybe tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow. We'll send you the link for tomorrow. We'd love you to come back before the summit ends. But yeah, that was fantastic, ladies. Keep on doing the work. It is needed.
Yeah.
So our next speaker, because Pat Aniston cannot come, she's having technical issues. She was supposed to present in person, will be a video again from South Africa for Refilwe Mokotjo. Refilwe also has another social impact project that she's involved in South Africa. We'll watch the video and then catch up and talk about it, Jerry.
Okay, sounds good.
Here we go.
So much for having me. Hi everyone, my name is Refilwe Mokotjo. I'm hailing from Orange Farm, south of Johannesburg. I am the founder of Stepping Stone Daycare. Stepping Stone Daycare was established in 2016 January and registered with social development in July 2016. The reason we started the center was in Orange Farm. We had a lot of teenage pregnancy, and most of the teenagers, when they have children, they couldn't go back to school. So I got touched because once a victim, I got a child at early age and I couldn't go back to school. So I spoke with one of my sisters to start with the Stepping Stone Daycare to collect these teenagers' children and then to keep them at our safe place. That's how Stepping Stone Daycare was started. I started in my dining room. It was very difficult for me and my children because we had to stop everyone from coming in the exit of dining room when we are busy with the children. But then it got extended when we realized that many of these mothers in Orange Farm are roaming around the street, and they couldn't even afford to pay 250 for the fees. Then we took in the children for free so that to allow the mothers to go to school again. And we had problem after maybe a year. That's when we were introduced to this beautiful lady next to us. And then she introduced us to light workers. The response was very merciful. They responded not just with a letter to say, okay, Refilwe, we hear you. They brought nutritious food for us. They brought toys for us, for children to play with. And then we got courage that, no, we should keep on going because we had this wall that we can lean on when we have something or difficult. And then we realized that we didn't have space. And then we came to her again to say, hey, ma'am, we don't have space for children. The dining room is full now because we already extended the learning into my sleeping room. Then she got her people, I don't know how, but we managed to build a garage. That's where we are practicing right now. So the challenges are, we don't have enough food. We don't have enough materials for children. As you would understand that we cannot go running to her always when we don't have much, but she's always there to assist. She's always there for us. She keep on asking us, where can I help? What I can help with? So the challenge maybe is about food mainly, because these children, they come at their places with empty stomachs and then they expecting to eat breakfast from our center, a lunch, and sometimes they even come to knock at the gate to say, "Hey, ma'am, we are hungry," and then it's out of school now. We are out of school now, but they are hungry at the time. And as a person, you need to see what you can give them. That is our most struggle. And right now we have already have 30 children at our center, from aging 1 year to 5 years. So the problem is the structure. We have a space where we can build a bigger center, but our struggle now is how are we going to build that structure. I'm very grateful to have met ladies today to listen to my story, and to have Videshni to invite me to have this platform. And I thank you very much. Thank you. That's my story.
That's beautiful. And thank you for the amazing work that you do as well. I just want to say I love your energy and you're beautiful.
Thank
beautiful.
you.
I can say the same to you. As I said before, thank you for loving these children, and I know how difficult it is to take in children and the parents can't afford to pay. But just think of the education you're giving to the mother who can turn around and be a better mother to her children. I mean, you're affecting generations of people. I am very honored to know you. Thank you.
Can you quantify how much you need per child? How much is it in rand per child that you need to keep the center going?
Per child, it can be 350 per child.
And Rafiki, how much is that in US dollars?
Less than $30.
Less than $30. Okay. And how many children do you have that are in your care?
We have 30 now.
30 children. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Hello, Miss Nina.
Hi, Nina. Hello, Jerry. It's been a while.
It has.
I had my dressing gown on, but I threw a scarf around me.
Oh, you
and
look lovely.
That, I could do. It's just such a rainy day out here, and I'm just sitting here. Well, it hasn't stopped raining, but just listening to these stories. Oh my goodness, get to give the opportunity for us to hear these women, and not just for us to hear what they have to say, but for them to know that they're being heard.
Yeah.
That is so important, that they know that we're hearing, and we do whatever we can, supporting, and not everyone has lots of money to give. Golly gee, it's sort of coming at every angle, but to somehow work out ways that we can support and help. Jerry, you look beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
You really are. I mean, golly gee, this morning. Didn't even put
You
my
are
lip
always beautiful to me.
You're always beautiful, Miss Nina.
The first time I saw you, you said, "Oh, my hair is such a mess," and I was like, "She looked great to me."
I think I miss all my curly red crazy hair.
Yeah.
And sort of, so I keep going. It's like, where is it? It was like a crown on my head for so long, but it's all what's in the heart now.
Yes, that's
true.
Yeah,
That is so true.
So I just wanted to thank you, Gertrude. It's very moving, and to think so many children are going without, and things have got to change, and slowly. I'm just saying to people, it's the feminine energy now. It's not like I keep saying, it's not the female against male or anything like that. It's that feminine energy of nurturing. The women give life
from men as well as from women.
Yes, absolutely. But it's that because when we recognize both sides, that's in all of us.
Yes.
It's not, unfortunately, it is from males that we get the separation, like, you're a woman. It's been thousands of years, hundreds of years, thousands of years of programming in the DNA. And the men really need to be cared and understood, but they don't know what to do. I'm seeing a lot of them very lost now because the energy is shifting so much. But we have to
That's
just
where we have to bridge that gap, Nina. I think as women, it's our job and our duty to
yes,
help bridge that gap because the divide is there.
Right.
And so what are we going to do as women to create a bridge, bring men into the room, have these conversations, and see
yeah.
what can be done to rebalance the imbalances that we are seeing in the world?
Well,
Yes.
as they open their hearts, as they hear more, as the men open their hearts, then that pure love can start going in where they are open to sitting around in circle together.
Yeah.
It's not a competition.
No,
It is really about that.
we can't do it. We can't do this work without them.
That's
Yeah, absolutely. Well, absolutely. It's just not balanced that way.
No.
We need to balance. This is what this time's about. It's about balancing. And I tell you another thing that I'm finding has just been come through to me lately is that word love, and not only the word, but that feeling of love. We need to verbally tell those around us, with us, that we love them. We need to use those words because when we put the words out there, it's not about, oh, you should know how I feel and all that. Once the word is out there, it goes out into the ethers. And if everybody was using that word, the what comes from that pure love is out there. It's out there. We've got to start telling people we love them more.
That's so true. So I just want to make a comment about all the women that we've listened to for the last few days. What's interesting to me is if I was very, very rich and I could give money, I certainly would. But we need to create a new word for people who they have nothing, but they are so willing to give of themselves. It's like philanthropy of service. There's got to be
different type of giving. Really, it's selfless.
It's
easy to throw money at something, but to be there in person, on the ground, holding those babies, caring for these children, it's a completely different type of giving.
And having come from such a deep, dark place to healing and then doing, that's what's phenomenal to me. Phenomenal.
So true. That is so true. We've got Faith joining us in Sydney, Australia, saying, I totally agree. We all have important work to do at this juncture. She says, I love every woman who's contributed on this journey. Thank you, Faith, and thank you for being there, chiming in and listening through Facebook. Wonderful to have you with us. Well, ladies, that is the end of yet another amazing day. We have 2 more days to go of our 31-day marathon.
Well
Nina,
done.
you're welcome to join us tomorrow. I'll send you the link in the morning. If you're free at any point, just pop in and be a part of the panel.
Oh, thank you.
We will be back tomorrow with yet another lineup of amazing stories from women all over the world who are changing the world one story at a time, one child at a time, one woman at a time. Thank you for being here with us, everybody. Thank you for chiming in. Please share these videos through your social media. If you feel you want to help or be connected to any of these amazing women, inbox me. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. You can find me throughout social media or any one of our team. Would love you to be a part of this journey as well.
Yes.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody. See you tomorrow.
Bye. Bye.